don't think you muted the right one. Uh, Channel 8. Yep.
Yeah, we gotta. Hi, good evening. It's a, wow, everyone is so far away. It's such a small crowd this evening.
Way out there.
All right, we'll get started. Before we do officially start this meeting, I want to let everyone know that I recessed the Board of Directors into an executive session today at 5:30 p.m. To consider the minimum price at which real estate will be offered for sale or lease. The session ended at 5:55 and no official action was taken. So now I call to order the Tuesday, October 21st, 2025 Peninsula School District Board of Directors meeting. All Board of Directors members, with the exception of Director West, are present. Please note that this regular scheduled meeting is held to conduct district business. It is open to the public and it is being recorded. So now, will you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first on our agenda this evening is the Gig Harbor and Peninsula Theater and Drama Club announcement. So I'm going to call Tia and your team to make an announcement.
I'm going to start. I'm going to speak on behalf of myself and Kanae Gray from Peninsula High School. She's the new drama teacher there. She's great. I love working with her. I don't believe they actually know that they were invited today, so I got information from her just to present on her behalf. Peninsula High School, they are happy to be presenting Hamlet in just 2 weeks. So their show dates are November 7th, 8th, 13th, 14th, and 15th. They have 7 shows. They don't yet have all of their tickets and everything figured out just yet because we're changing to a new vendor this year for all of our ticket sales. So as soon as they get those and the QR codes, then she'll share all of that information with you. But they are enjoying their new lights that they got. They are beautiful. Aaron McAllister and I went over on Friday and we played a little bit with their new board, and they're beautiful and great, and they can do so many great things now on the Peninsula stage. So we're really excited. I'm not going to invite you to our show. I'm going to have 2 of my students come and invite you to our show for this fall. This is Caitlin McAllister and Caroline.
Hi, I'm Caroline.
And I'm, wait, where's my line?
It's right there, under the coffee stain.
Oh yes, I'm Caitlin, and we're here to personally invite you, yes you, to the most chaotic, hilarious, student-powered disaster to ever grace the Gig Harbor High School stage.
That's right. Gig Harbor High School Theatre proudly presents The Play That Goes Wrong, a mystery murder comedy where everything goes wrong. On purpose.
Well, mostly on purpose.
Mostly.
You'll see collapsing sets, questionable accents, disappearing props, and dramatic performances that deserve at least 3 standing ovations. Maybe 4 if someone falls off the stage again.
But what won't go wrong? The fact that this show is entirely student-directed, with all tech performed 100% by Gig Harbor High School students.
Our amazing set, built by our very own CTE students, because we believe in theatrical excellence and OSHA compliance.
And to our Honorable Superintendent and Peninsula School Board, we would be absolutely delighted to have you attend. We promise, the stage will stay mostly upright.
You've supported our academics, our arts, and now it's your turn to laugh harder than you ever have at a door that just won't open.
Join us November 14th, 15th, 21st, and 22nd at 6 p.m. or catch our special Saturday matinee on November 16th at 1.
It is the perfect escape from budget meetings, spreadsheets, and mysterious cafeteria meat.
Tickets are cheaper than replacing a broken prop, which happens often.
So bring your sense of humor, bring your seatbelt, and maybe bring a helmet.
We can't wait to see you at The Play That Goes Wrong, where everything goes hilariously off the rails, and the talent is all Gig Harbor High School.
Thank you.
That's well done. I will definitely be there. I think most of us will. And I know that we have the QR code. Is that for your ticket sales? Yep, so we will share that out, and once Peninsula gets theirs, we'll share that out as well. All right. Fantastic accents. Very, very realistic. Is John Yellowlees here? No? Okay, well, he would be our resident Brit that could run it by him.
For a second, I
Yeah.
don't know what country she's from.
All right. Moving on to the business part. Item 3 on our agenda this evening is the approval of our agenda. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Jennifer and seconded by David to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried and the agenda is approved. We have our student reps here this evening. Hello, you guys all look great. Rolling in the new year, so I'm sure you've got some reports for us. So looks like everyone is here except for Kate is out for an athletic event. So I'm going to turn it over to you in whichever order you would like to report. Lauren first, all right.
Hello, school board. Lauren here, and I'm back with the news about CTP. My first update is cooking, and we made so many good recipes. First, we made homemade chicken nuggets with homemade fries. Next was homemade chocolate cake. And lastly, we made homemade clam chowder with bread bowls. And they were all so divine. We also have a new job of shopping and delivering to Peninsula High School and Gig Harbor High for their ethnic food classes. Our new job takes us to the U.S. Chef store in Tacoma or Bremerton. And inside the store, it's like a mini Costco. We love this new opportunity. Is this thing working? It's just, it kind of doesn't work as much. Okay. Last week, my friend Paige's talker was stolen out of a car. Her talker allows her to communicate with people. Kimball had created a GoFindMe website to raise money for a brand new AAC. The goal is to get up to $8,000, and we're so close. We're now at $6,825, almost to $7,000. The community is coming together to support my friend Paige. About 2 weeks ago, for our first hands-on art project, we made necklaces out of copper wire. To make one, which is very easy, you first have to bend the wire to make any design you like. Next, you hammer it down, then shine it with a cloth. Then, finally, you can wear it or put it up as a decoration. We'll do that same project at Voyager Elementary School within about a few weeks. For Penmet Parks, when you want to go on a walk but it's raining, you can go on their indoor track and it's free. For our social club, we're heading to Oceans 5 for a laser tag for a Halloween party. Hope you don't get jump scared by it. Our club, the Action Club, is meeting tonight to do stuff for the Veterans Day Challenge. And our classmates have been busy preparing foods and drinks for tonight's meeting. Gig Harbor High School Key Club and other Kiwanis members will be joining to stuff 750 challenge coins. That's all the news of CTP for the night. Hope you all have a great evening. Lauren out. Thank you. Yes? Yes, I am. And then after that, I'm going to be dressing up for my friend Alex Chapman for bowling after school. Yes, it is. I'm not wearing it for the laser tag, but I'm wearing it for after school. Yep.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kai Noah. I'm the junior representative at Peninsula High School. Like Natalie said, our senior representative, Kate, is currently, they have a volleyball game that starts in about 50 minutes, so go Hawks. But I'm going to start at Peninsula with our reports, and then I'll work my way down through middle schools, then elementary schools. So to start, at Peninsula, we had our homecoming on October 4th. Would be like a couple weeks from now, or in the past. We had around 800 kids in attendance, which was amazing. It was a great dance. I was there. It was awesome. During that week of our homecoming week, we had a food drive with over 5,500 items donated. And along with that, we had a very successful homecoming assembly, along with a lot of participation and engagement by students, whether it be dressing up for spirit days or in spirit activities at lunchtime. We also had Club Rush on the 16th of October with over 20 clubs showing up in our lunchroom to promote themselves, and which gave the opportunity for our students to go sign up for clubs and get involved with the school. We also have a big event tomorrow, or no, not tomorrow, Thursday on the 23rd, the Seahawks Spectacular event where all the elementary schools were invited, and it's kind of like Club Rush, but a little bit more kid friendly. But all 20 clubs and sports are going, and we're meeting, and basically all the elementary school kids are coming, and we're just kind of showing what we offer and just getting to know them and stuff like that. So it's going to be a great event. Along on Thursday, we have the Seattle Storm Unified Sports Basketball Clinic that we have coming up, and I'll get to it later with the middle school, but 10 Keep Peninsula Middle School and 10 Harbor Ridge Middle School kids have been invited to come participate in that with us. So that's going to be amazing. I'm going to be there, so it's going to be a fun event. So next, middle schools, Harbor Ridge and KPMS both just wrapped up their fall sports seasons with volleyball, boys soccer, and cross country, and just had an amazing turnout along with just an amazing season. Hold on, let me get to it real quick. Sorry about this. Harbor Ridge has their first PEP assembly on October 24th, and they also have their fall social coming up on November 6th. While KPMS had their first quarter recognition and spirit assembly it's coming up on November 21st next month, which is actually a month from today, which is kind of crazy. Which they're kind of going to recognize many students for achievements that they have, along with helping students get involved, showing students they're already involved so they can have more participation from the school. Next, Evergreen Elementary School. Evergreen has their character trait of respect this month assembly on October 23rd, where teachers and staff have nominated many students to be recognized for showing what it means to be respectful and show respect as a student. Along with next week, I believe it is the week of the 26th, they're set to have their conference week, so to help set goals for students with their parents and have a great support system set for them. Next at Minter Creek, their new student workspace, I believe it's called the Reef, has been just amazing for them. It's been a great spot for the students. They also added a little area on the outside where they're calling it the beach, and just to give students that extra opportunity to hang out, study, stuff like that. So it's pretty awesome. Vaughn Elementary School has their positive behavior recognition assembly coming up soon, which just to kind of like the other elementary schools where their teachers and staff are recognizing students for just having good behavior and being great students all around. So it's pretty amazing. And lastly, we have Purdy Elementary. As you all know, it's bullying prevention month in these schools, so they're kind of having, I believe they're having an assembly where they're teaching, or not really assembly, but a school-wide thing where they're having the teachers and staff implement defining what bullying is and strategies to prevent it and report it and stuff like that, which is just a great thing. So that's all a report from Peninsula on our side.
I have a quick question. Have you done this spectacular event before?
No, this is actually do I need the mic? No, this is actually the first year we've done it. I'm not currently in leadership, so I haven't really been around setting it up, but I've heard from a bunch of students in leadership that and our ASB advisor that it's the first time we've done something like this, and it's supposed to be a really great event. So
yeah,
I'm
it sounds
excited.
great. Is it during the school day or is it afternoon
I
or
believe
evening?
it's
Do you know?
after. I don't know the exact details of it. But I
Okay.
believe I don't think it would be.
Yeah.
evenings.
Well, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
I love that you guys are reaching out to the elementary schools already. That's really great. Thanks.
Is this still on? Okay. So I'm Caitlin. I'm the senior rep from Gig Harbor. So we have definitely had quite a busy October so far. So our homecoming was about a week ago, and the theme for that homecoming was a night in Athens. So all ancient Greece themed. It was super cool, and we had a super cool spirit week as well. So we had a statue day, yacht club day, Jersey Out for the Olympics, Mamma Mia, and then White and Gold, which also led into our homecoming assembly on Friday, where we had all of our homecoming court participate in different Olympic-themed events. So we had like chariot racing, javelin throwing, and it was super cool because it is the most, participation we've had in assembly in a long time. And then to that actual dance, we sold over 750 tickets to that, which is a huge increase from all of the dances that we've had at our school in the past. And then coming up soon, Gig Harbor High School is also administering the PSAT to our students. So this year you can pay $18 for your student to be able to take the test, and that's going to prepare them for the SAT and also allows them to be recognized by other programs like National Merit, different scholarships, and all of that. So that's super exciting for our students, and that's coming up on October 30th. And then for our clubs and school programs, so volunteering at Gig Harbor has been off to a great start. And we have plenty of clubs like Interact Club that have already volunteered at different events like the Cider Swing, we had Thriving Generation, we've had food drives, and a bunch more. And then along with that, we have other clubs really getting a lot of participation at our school as well. So we have many students excited to join HOSA, DECA, NHS, Interact, Key Club, and many more. And all of those have seen huge increases in numbers this year. And we also really wanted to give thanks to our new administration because we have had such an increase in our student involvement with our school community, which is so nice to see. And then, just like you heard in that presentation earlier, our school drama club is sharing their production of The Play That Goes Wrong. That's coming up in November, so be sure to go and watch that. It's going to be a super fun play, just like they mentioned. And then onto our sports. So our fall sports are already starting to wrap up, which is crazy. And then they're all moving into the postseason. So in the past few weeks, we've had a lot of invites, senior nights, and different celebrations with our team. So first off, we're just going to go through the sports. So we have girls soccer. They're currently ranked first in their league with the regular season ending this Thursday, which is a home game. If you would love to go and support them, I know they would really appreciate it. And then their first game of districts is also coming up. For boys tennis, they just wrapped up their senior night and their regular season, and they're going to move into their postseason with those really big matches for their varsity players coming up soon. Volleyball is tied for second in their league, and they have really big games this week. So they have one tonight starting at 7, and then they also have one away on Thursday, and those are both to fight for a spot in their districts. So we're wishing them luck, and I have a feeling they're going to get a super big crowd tonight. For girls swim and dive, they finished up their regular season this week, ending to be undefeated in the league, and then they also had their Swimvitational meet invite on this past weekend, which was super exciting and a really cool thing to go do. Our H2O had their senior night last Friday at our home football game, where they were also able to honor their 3 seniors for the year. However, their season is not done, and they can't wait to continue and dance and compete throughout the rest of their season. Boys water polo is also wrapping up their season. They have a senior night on Thursday where they're going to honor their players leaving them. And then they're also going to be headed to Division I state where they're super highly ranked in that. So we're excited to see how they do there. And then cheer is also prepping for their competition season, and they had their senior night last Friday. They're also getting ready for basketball season, which is right around the corner with tryouts coming up for that as well. And then one thing they're really looking forward to is they actually have the opportunity to cheer at the UW football game this Saturday. So they're all going to go and get up super early is what I was told for that game, but I'm sure it'll be a super fun time. And then I'm going to pass it to Sophia to finish the rest.
So hi, I'm Sophia. I'm the Gig Harbor High School junior representative, and I'm just going to finish up sports with football and cross country. So for football, we have won most of our games overall this season. And we also played the number 1 team in the league recently, and we were up by 7 for a quarter, putting up a really good fight. We also won our homecoming game, which put our homecoming weekend off to a great start also. For our cross-country team, they've been doing super well. A lot of the runners have gotten PRs this season, and we've just seen a lot of improvement overall with our cross-country team. They also have an upcoming meet this Saturday. It is the league meet and the district qualifier taking place at Fort Silicon Park in the afternoon, so feel free to come and support our team. So moving on to feeder schools, for Goodman Middle School, we have seen that students have settled into a positive routine and well on their way with learning. The ELA teachers have jumped into a new curriculum, collaborating on routines and instructional practice to best meet the student needs. They also had over 100 athletes participate in the fall sports season, showing pride, perseverance, and hard work throughout the season. They were even able to offer skills team for the volleyball to build skills of the game and also foster school connection. During Bullying Prevention Month, they've continued to foster inclusion and kindness through character strong lessons, cyberbullying lessons, and so on. Later this week, they're going to challenge students to participate in a kindness challenge. I don't know what the kindness challenge is, but there's going to be a kindness challenge. Their Interact Club is preparing to launch and has some fun projects around inclusion and belonging as well. For Voyager Elementary, they've completed their second annual Apple Crunch. All the staff and students took a bite of an apple at the exact same time. They started Socktober, their annual sock and underwear drive for the Fish Food Bank, collecting donations until October 31st. And then next week, they will hold their annual Trunk or Treat event from 5:30 to 7 p.m. on Wednesday evening. So if you want to take someone to a trunk or treat, there you go. And then at Archendale Elementary, they recently completed their readathon on Sunday, October 19th. Participants from preschool through 5th grade, the students collectively read 197,725 minutes and raised $14,005 to support school programs. They would like to appreciate their amazing PTA and also their community for the amazing effort and strong start to the year for their readers. And lastly, for Discovery Elementary, they just had their Nutrition Services Staff Recognition Week this past week, thanking all those who help feed the many kids in Discovery. This week they also are currently appreciating the bus driver, mechanics, and transportation staff. So thank you to all those who help get these kids safely to and from Discovery. And they also have their fall festival this Friday, which will be super fun to see. And lastly, conferences are coming up at Discovery next week.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Olivia I'm the senior rep for Henderson Bay, and I'm going to share updates about what we've been doing at school. So first, we have had our Friendsgiving Fish Food Drive this week, and it's going really well. Each class has a list of items they're responsible for contributing, and it's exciting to see students actively participating to support this effort. Recently, we also had the Thriving Generation event at Gateway Park. This was a service project for the community set up by Interact Club. The students played an important role and helped facilitate carnival games for kids attending the event. It was a wonderful opportunity for students to engage with the community and contribute in a meaningful way. And we also have had the Aviation Academy. Students have been enjoying their time with flight simulators, which have been both educational and fun. They are also looking forward to the upcoming field trips planned for the class, which will provide even more hands-on learning experience. That's it for Henderson Bay. Thank you.
All right. All right. Item 5 is public comments on agenda or on action items this evening, and I think we don't have anyone signed up for action items. So we're going to roll to item 6, which is recognitions, reports, and presentations. So we have Dawnette Wright, who's coming to the front, but Dawnette, before you get started, come on up anyway. So I wanted to take just a moment on behalf of the board to share something that's really exciting about you. I'm proud to announce that Dawnette Wright, our Director of Transportation, has been elected to as the Region 5 Director for the National Association for Pupil Transportation.
Thank you.
This is, well, hold on, there's more written here. Hold on. This is a prestigious national role, and it's a true testament to your outstanding leadership, your unwavering commitment to student safety, and your dedication to excellence in school transportation. We are so incredibly proud of you and grateful for you. So thank you, Dawnette, and we'd like to present you with a small token of our appreciation and something to remember this evening with. So come on up and let's get a picture. Yeah.
You should expect.
You should expect it. How long have you been working to do this?
My entire career.
I
It
know,
has been
yes.
It has been a goal of mine for my entire career. So 34 years.
Not quite sure how I'm supposed to present after that.
Well, now,
You go.
Yes.
turn to our regularly
It's fine.
scheduled program.
It's fine. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And for those of you who don't know, I'm Dawnette, the Director of Transportation, and I'm just here to give an update. And this is my clicker, eh? Yeah, cool. Okay, so just going through what we did last year in transportation. Am I close enough to the mic? Okay. So our staffing, over the summer, we did a little bit of restaffing this year because I don't know if you remember or not, but last year we let you guys know that we did over 3,000 trips, whether that be taking our athletes somewhere or our students somewhere outside of the district. Over 3,000 trips is a lot of paperwork in our office when it comes to processing the paperwork, posting, bidding, just doing everything that's involved with that. So over the summer, we moved Jen, who does all of those trips, and put her into a specialist position where that's all she focuses on. So the hopes of that is that we, aren't going to have any mishaps, missed trips, and things of those natures. And she's been doing a wonderful job. She's been handling all of the trips now for about 3 years, and she does a great job, but now this allows her to focus on that. With moving Jen out of that dispatch position, which is what she was in, that opened up a dispatch position, which allowed us to bring in Lonnie. And Lonnie comes to us with 18 years of student transportation experience, so we're really excited about that. I've had the pleasure of working with Lonnie about 10 years ago when we both worked at the ESD. I was her manager at that time. So I was really lucky to be able to send her the message saying, I have an opening. So I was really happy about that, and she's doing a wonderful job, fits in really well, and is doing just a very good job. So that is the changes within our office staff. And let's go this way. For our mechanic staff, right now, we are currently, for the first time since I've been at Peninsula School District, fully staffed in our shop right now. So that's allowing us to keep a lot of the bigger projects, the change of a transmission, those really big projects that we would sometimes have to send out. We're able to keep those in-house now. So that's a huge savings to us as well. Of course, our amazing bus drivers. We currently have 61 contracted drivers. It seems like every year we're trying to shave that down. I don't think we're going to get it down any further. We started off the year with 60. Had to add one back for a special services run that goes outside of the district. So I think this is about as lean as we can get on them. But right now, 61. We have 13 right now substitute drivers. But of course, while that sounds like a huge number, their availability is just all over the board. One can work Tuesday mornings, one can only work on Fridays, So when it comes to subs, we take what we can get, and we're happy to have them. So it seems like 13's a lot, but we always need more. And so that brings us to like our staffing movement and what that looks like in our training department. Over this past year, we've trained over 23 people in our course. 3 of those came to us fully authorized from other districts that we were able to kind of snag from them. So we only had to train, a portion of the training. You give them district policy, make sure they have all the OSPI credentials and whatnot. Other than that, 16 have successfully completed the class. 6 of those have been awarded routes. 3 drivers have retired, which we replaced with those drivers. 7 of those drivers have left for other reasons, whether they found other work or whatever. And we had 6 new trainees start the class at the beginning of October. So October 6th, I believe, is when our class started. And out of those 6, we've got 2 that are currently in buses driving because they were fully authorized. We've got 2 that are in buses doing behind the wheel training, and we've got 2 that are still working to get the credentials to be there. So we're moving right along as quickly as we can, and we just continue to hold those training classes back to back as quickly as we can have them, because school bus driving is just a position we always need. So last year we went over 1 million miles yet again. So our buses traveled over 6,000 miles a day, transporting almost 4,000 students to and from school every day to about 2,197 bus stops within our district. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Well, they're not all unique bus stops. When we say 2,197, we may utilize that same bus stop on an elementary, a middle school, and a high school. So it sounds like a lot. I only know that number because I'm in the midst of doing stars right now. So I'm like, all kinds of numbers right here in this head. Yeah, so 4,000 students to and from every day for 1,086,554 miles last year on just to and from school. And then you add to that over 131,800 miles taking our athletes and our students on different trips. For a grand total of 1,218,350 miles traveled last year, all again with 0 accidents that resulted in student injury. So that's amazing, and I couldn't be prouder. And of course, we do have some cute statistics on there about how we could have made 49 trips around the earth in our school buses, given the, circle the entire continental United States 12 times, or drive from New York to Los Angeles 438 times, given the amount of miles we went. So I think that's really, really impressive when you think about how safe we are and the 0 injuries and bus accidents that we've had. So kudos to the bus drivers because they do an amazing job every day. So funding, here we go. It's a fun topic. These are the numbers that we reported on last year. So we transported 7,744 students. And what that equates to in STARS math is each kid, each day, each way. So basically reporting them twice a day. So we reported 7,744. We took them to 19 different school sites, unique school sites, and some of those were outside of our district. Most of them are within. But and see, our district is about 110 square miles, and we used 61 buses to make all of that happen. So we send all of that information to OSPI. They put it in their regression analysis, and they tell us what they think we should have done that job for. And that equals out to about $7,309,264 is what they said we should have been able to do it for. So that's what they gave us. Our actual operating costs were $8,117,089. So clearly, we're operating at a bit of a deficit. That deficit, though, an 11% deficit, some of that can be attributed to the fact that last year during negotiations, our drivers, we negotiated a raise for them, which then made their wages competitive with the surrounding districts, which hence why we were able to grab 3 drivers that were already authorized from other districts. So that's been very helpful for us. Our fleet. Right now, our fleet is 51 large buses. Those would be Ds and Cs, so anything over a 77 passenger bus. And then we have 29 small buses. Out of those right now, we have 9 of those buses are propane-powered buses. And let's see, you may recall when I got here, you may not, I don't know. But that we had 95 buses in our fleet when I first got here. We are down to 80 buses now. So we have been able to scrap buses for rebate money. We've been able to just get rid of some of the older fleet that was completely off depreciation. Our fleet right now is about 30% still off of depreciation, but once we take our new buses in November, which they're about 3 weeks out right now, I believe, they're actually sitting in Pasco being PDI'd right now. So once we receive those, our off of depreciation will go down to 23.75%. So we're doing really good in replacing that old fleet. And that's something that for me I'm really proud of, and I'm proud of that for a couple of reasons. Number one, newer buses keep us on the depreciation, which means our cost of operations are a lot lower. We're being paid to maintain our buses at that point. We're not paying to keep a bus on the road. We have less student management issues because the bus is quieter, the bus is cleaner. It's just a nicer environment for them. So they're better buses for student management. And they also are just much cleaner to operate. They reduce the harmful emissions. We're operating at a 0.02 NOx, so they're very clean operating buses. And that's actually been proven to increase test scores within the classroom. So we're very proud of our work in moving towards propane-powered school buses. We still have a long way to go. Right now, we still have, once we take delivery of the next 5, we'll still have 19 buses that are off of depreciation. And of course, each year more buses will drop off that depreciation, but that we're trying really hard to catch up on our cycle. So we're working to do that. This is how it's paying off, let me tell you. I thought this was a really good graphic, if you can see that. Just in fuel savings alone, this is just fuel. If you compare a diesel bus to a propane bus, we're saving 21 cents a mile in just fuel alone. So then you go and you add that maintenance, the maintenance cost on it, you know, DEF, the particulate filters, all of the different additives, things that cost more. An oil change cost so much more in a diesel bus than a propane bus. So that's another 57 cents per mile. So a total of 78 cents per mile. Now you think back to that over 1 million miles we did, we could really be saving a lot of money when we switch over to transmission. When I say a lot, I mean a lot. You know, 2.59 million in just a couple of years. So it's a huge amount of money, and we're working hard to get there. Other things going on in transportation over the summer. Over the summer, we transitioned to a new routing software, and we've been seeing a lot of great success. We did have some older navigation tablets in our buses for the last few years. When I got here, they had been in the buses for a long time. They weren't really operating really well. The routing software was kind of antiquated, and so it wasn't feeding the right information. So the new routing software came with new tablets. It came with a new parent app that has been wildly successful. And yeah, so we have a cute little video of a young man waiting on his bus on his first day of school. If Jenny's gonna share this with you.
See that road? Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm excited. You're excited? Yeah, I like that road. I can go to this. Yeah, I don't see what's happening now. Oh boy. Oh boy.
So that's a lot of fun. We get a lot of really good feedback right now on that parent app. It's working really, really well. Right now, parents are able to follow the bus. However, part of this new package is ridership as well. So we're going to be transitioning soon. We're working right now with the school offices to see what they believe would make a successful rollout on ridership cards. They're not going to be RFID cards like we had tried in the past. These are near field communication cards. And they work a lot like Apple Pay or your credit card tap to pay. As quick as you can tap is as quick as they can load. It won't stop a student from loading. If they don't have their card, we can still load them without the card. And what that's going to allow parents to see is not only the bus now coming to and from the stop, but it's going to be able to show them exactly when and where their student got on the bus and got off the bus every day. So right now, the parent app updates in real time. So it has GPS. All the schools can see their buses on GPS, so they know they don't have to call our office anymore to say, hey, where's this bus? Why, how late is it going to be? They can look on the screen and see that it's, you know, just around the corner, or they can see it's almost there. So they'll be able to still see the bus, but they'll also be able to see their student, and that's great information for parents to have. It really calms a lot of parents, and it's just good information. Also, some other new software we implemented over the summer was the Bus Hive in transitioning away from our older software. we went away from their trip software, and the new routing software just didn't have a robust trip software. So we have Bus Hive, which is a standalone field trip software. It's the only thing this company does, and they do it really, really well. So I've had it at previous districts. I really liked it, and we were able to onboard them here. And we brought along a Time Clock Plus, so we're working to really mainstream our clocking in and out and our payroll and our all of that, so that we're trying to get away from the paper and lack of trees and go more towards digital. So that's where we're going. Our amazing bus drivers, once again this year, actually yesterday, they were at Purdy Elementary, and they worked with, this year, Gig Harbor Fire Department, and they did a actual emergency drill. So the ones like we used to have when we were little, which we don't do much anymore because it's not required. So it's required that we do exit drills, but we don't actually have to do the full-on get out the back door anymore. That's not required by state law, so a lot of school districts don't do it. However, we felt it was really important. My drivers came to me. They really wanted to do it. They felt it was important that we included the fire department. They were happy to do it. We did it at Vaughn last year, and it was greatly successful there. It really is good. You know, we felt that the kids being able to have those interactions with the fire department in a non-emergency situation was great for the kiddos. They got to pull the park brake on a bus so they could hear that sound. They got to exit out the emergency door, and they even got to get on the radio and talk to dispatch, that was a lot of fun. So, the drivers have been working on this project because they'd like to see it across the board at all schools, at least all elementary schools moving forward. So we started at Vaughn last year with KP Fire Department. This year we came over to the Gig Harbor side, and we worked with Gig Harbor Fire Department at Purdy. That was yesterday. So we're working to see how we can expand this moving forward. And this was really a grassroots effort by my drivers. They came to me, they wanted to do it, and they've worked really hard putting the program together. Yeah, just a little update on the round 4 of EPA rebate program. We don't know where we're at. I don't think anybody does right now. I've heard rumblings that there's going to be more money given to propane buses moving forward, and not as much on the electric side of things, but nobody knows that. It's all a guessing game, and when I know more, I will certainly update you. And last but not least, I have Shauna here. Shauna's one of our bus drivers in the back. Wave, Shauna. Shauna's an amazing bus driver, but last year she came to me and she wanted to revive the Stuff a Bus event. You might remember I gave you that update last year. Well, she's doing it again. So this year, December 15th and pardon? Sorry. November 15th. Wow. Great job. Okay, sorry about that. November 15th. We'll have 2 different locations, one at Fred Meyer, one at Target, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we'll be giving those donations to the 3 different food banks, correct? And can you tell us those ones? And I believe that's all I have for you. Do you have questions for me?
Just 2 quick comments.
Yeah.
Just as an FYI, that's 2 trips to the moon and back. You're 100 miles. I had to look it up.
Uh-oh, did ChatGTP steer me wrong?
No, that was Google. No, you didn't have it up there. You had around the world. I said this to the moon and back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, thank you.
Just under 240,000 miles to the moon, so.
All right.
Anyway.
2 trips to the moon and back.
Yeah.
I think we're going to need to put that on a banner
There
in
you
my
go.
office.
There you go. But it was, your presentation made very clear to me what an incredible resource and leader you are for our district. We think about the big 3 that we've been talking about for the chronic underfunding of schools, and one of those big 3 is transportation. And the fact of the matter is while we still may be underwater a bit, we are nowhere near facing the amount of transportation shortfalls that I think a lot of our fellow districts are. That for a lot of districts, it's their number one issue, and it's not for us. And I credit you and your team and your staff with that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I do have a great team, so it's definitely not a solo effort. Thank you.
So a couple for me. We all know STARS is terrible. When you're plugging the data into STARS, is there line items for cost of fuel and stuff like that? So, and where I'm going with that is that if we're at 8 million or whatever, and they give us 7 based on their formula, we come up with that million or 830,000 short. As you find ways to bring in more propane and reduce our local costs, do they put anything into their system to make sure that gap stays? Or as you work on improving cost savings, does that bring us more to parity with OSPI?
So yes, they do have a place where we put in fuel costs right now. They break it out into diesel, gasoline, and other.
Yeah.
So, and then I have to put in that, what that other is. So I'm not 100% positive. My thought process, knowing what I know about STARS, would be the more we save, the more underfunded we would be, but I'm not certain of that.
Yeah, and that's where I was going with that. I
Right.
think that's very unfortunate. That
I agree with
As we're
you.
making efforts to save money and improve the environment, it jacks everything up, and we continue to be operating at deficit funding. That's just really, we really need to do something to advocate for that. That's really unfortunate. The other thing I had an early question about with the substitute drivers, and then I think you answered it later on in your presentation, but on a substitute, does each of your regular 61 drivers have their own map book, or do they come when they get to work in the morning, they take their tablet, put it on the bus, or they have their own individual tablet? So does a substitute driver come in, get a tablet for that bus, and know where to pick up the kids?
So I hear what you're saying.
Yep.
No, so actually each bus is equipped with the tablet that's locked into the bus, in a cradle in the bus. So the tablet stays there, and each driver has a unique PIN number that they sign in. On our end, in the routing software, we then go to that route and we input the driver who's driving that for the day. It has the typical everyday contracted driver in there, but if we have a sub, we have a place to go in there and put a sub, and whether that sub will be in there for 1 day, 1 week, or 1 month.
Okay, and who is responsible, is the dispatcher responsible for updating the route? So let's say you get a new student somewhere on the bus route, and do they just get added to it? Like, there's extra kid gonna get on, or is there a chance you have to add a stop?
I'm so glad you asked this question. So no, right now, every day we get a report from the SIS, and that tells us any changes that have happened to a student record overnight. And we then go in, actually, Michelle Monzingo, our transportation coordinator, goes in and she looks at all of those records to see what the changes were, if it's a new student, if it's a student who moved, and then she sees if they need new routing information added. She takes care of that every single morning. She looks at that report. Oh gosh, there was another thought I had about that though, and right out of my head.
Well, hopefully you'll think of it. And my last question is, a number of years ago, the state was really pushing the school districts in the state to move to EV buses, which we pretty much pushed back on. Have they backed off that requirement now that we're doing so good with propane, or is there still a push for EV buses?
There is still a push for EV buses. It is not as prevalent right now, and I think that's just because of where the state of the world right now. So I think right now, because funding is not what it was last year or 2 years ago, they just can't push it because districts can't afford it right now. So if there's more funding attached to it, you may see that change. But right now, they're not pushing as hard for it.
Okay.
Now, That being said, in 2027, though, all of the emissions regulations for diesel buses change. And I just got a notification from one of the bus vendors telling me that in 2027, when they add all of that extra stuff to the engine, that the engine's going, the price of that bus is going to raise by $30,000 per bus. So they're actually right now purchasing large stocks of stock buses for 2026 year model. So anybody wanting to buy those can at a reduced cost and not that extra $30,000. So yes, they still do have the emissions regulations that will take effect in 2027. That's going to make it almost impossible for districts to buy diesel buses.
But are you going to keep pushing to get rid of our diesel fleet?
Hopefully that'll be some legislation that we'll be advocating for, as state president for WAPT, by the way, that those are initiatives that I look at all the time too. So those will definitely be things on my radar when I see any movement on those. To go back to your how kids get routed, I'm sorry, I remembered my thought. The new app and the new parent app and tablet and all of that, part of that and the ridership will also be hopefully in the future to be able to register for rides. And so that way every year students or parents can register their students for rides. We can then route for ridership, thereby saving more money because we're not routing the entire district and a bunch of students that are not riding the bus will be able to route for actual efficiency and ridership.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. Also, just want to agree with what Jennifer said, and just that how lucky we are to have someone who spends so much time and advocating for us at the national level and state level. And really appreciate your expertise and your passion for finding solutions where it looks like sometimes there are none. And then I never want to miss an opportunity to just give a shout out to our drivers, because you guys are incredible. You go above and beyond every day. And I say this every time it comes up, but I rode all the morning routes with the driver, Kelly, a few years ago, and I was just blown away by the amount of work they do that you would never see. It has nothing to do with actually driving down the road in the bus, like the walking around the bus, doing the safety check and looking in the bus and checking under every seat and all the things, and just real safety professionals, and it's impressive. And then also have to give a shout out to Felicia, who started driving my kids 25 years ago, and it about brings a tear to my eye when she picks up the neighbor kids now, still right out in front of our house, and just same smile, same Felicia every day. So you guys are an impressive department.
Thank you. Thank you. Like I said, I got a great team. They're amazing human beings in transportation.
Can I piggyback on that? So as we go into the season of SNOW, the word that we do not like to say.
It's a bad word.
I know. However, I just want to say that our drivers are the most amazing people, and I've done this a long, long time, but every time I see them and every time I think about, I know, because you and I are communicating at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, but just the professionalism, because remember, the drivers are out there before letting us know the conditions of the road and taking that very seriously. So we love you guys, absolutely, 100%. So we are very, very fortunate, and we go all the way around. We are not as the crow flies. We are as the hills and dales and the inlets and the outlets.
Yes, we are.
So it's not an easy place. Things are never straight here.
No. It's never an easy call, that's for sure.
I just had a couple of things about that delta and the funding. We know we're probably not going to get more money this year. That's what they keep telling us. And so when we're looking at unfunded mandates across, all aspects of school, is there something that kind of sticks out in your mind that would help you by eliminating an unfunded mandate that isn't getting money but helps eliminate some of the things that you are having to fund right now that might be unnecessary? And if you don't have anything on the top of mind,
I'm
okay.
sure I could probably think of 10 things by tomorrow morning. But
sure. Well, maybe that's something that we can have continued conversations about when we are asking our legislators for support. I think we got to come with things other than just more money, but what can they do to help us?
Right, those unfunded mandates. Yeah, I'll certainly put some thought into that and definitely get back to you on that.
Great. All right, and one other question. Every student in the district, are they automatically assigned to a school district or to a bus stop based on where they live, or do you have to sign up for that?
So right now, no, they are not. They do not sign up for it, though. That's what I was saying. We get the report from SIS every morning. During the summertime, when we implemented this new software, that was one of the most time-consuming parts of bringing on that software. Was we went in and hand put every single student in this district on a route.
Okay.
So that was a big push by my office staff to get that accomplished before school started.
Okay. I have heard rumblings of, I don't know, senior prank ideas this year, and one of them was for all seniors to ride the bus one morning, and I said, I don't think that's very funny. I don't know that that would work, but anyway, I thought, would they even let you on? Are you even assigned to a bus?
So I dare say this at this point now that you said that, but in the morning at a bus stop, buses, as long as they're our student, which, typically we can tell, if a student is at a stop, we transport.
Sure.
We transport. So they don't necessarily have to be assigned to a bus in the morning. Now, to get on a bus to go home in the afternoon, that's a different ball of wax. Yes, they definitely have to be assigned at that point.
Okay. So that might not be the best prank. All right,
Well-
that was just something I heard. The coordination on that seems like it, I know, what? Not my kid.
That might be just a little illegal. Just a little illegal.
No, well, we don't want to advocate for anything like that.
No.
Okay, well, thank you. And Shauna, thank you for year over year. It looks like you brought an assistant here. Who is your assistant? Awesome. Yep, and you look like you're excited to be here too and support the Stuff the Bus, so thank you for coming, both of you, and thanks for all you do. Our school days begin and end with transportation, so the safety report that you gave is just outstanding. We are so grateful for all that you do every day for keeping our kids safe and getting them to school. It significantly impacts student outcomes when they have a ride to and from school, so thank you. And
Thank you.
great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, if I could just take a moment, I'm sorry, but it's School Bus Safety Week, right? So I get to recognize two people, right? Is that next on my list, Jenny? Okay, great. Thank you. So I do have two people that I would like to recognize, and unfortunately, neither of them could be present tonight. Making sure before I say this, that they didn't sneak in. One of them being a mechanic and one of them being a bus driver. Of course, the bus driver is going to get up really early in the morning to get out there and get our kiddos, so wasn't able to make it tonight. But his name is Balmore Escobar. He's a newer member of our team. He's been here for about 3 years now, and he does a great job. He gets so many compliments. Parents call us all the time just saying what a fantastic job he's doing. And in fact, at the end of last year, I had several parents calling me saying, do not take him off our route. Do not. I'm like, ooh. And he took a very challenging route to begin with. So it was one that other drivers had not been very successful on. And he has turned it around and has done an amazing job. So I would just like to really recognize him for School Bus Safety Week, Balmore Escobar. He's done a great job for us. And then a mechanic. I have so many outstanding mechanics right now. I have 8 of them. But I have one in particular. He's my lead night mechanic, and he's there every evening when all of the buses come in off of runs in the afternoon, and he's there every evening when buses come in from those late night field trips. And he takes care of all of the buses and all of the drivers, and he is somebody that we'd have a real hard time replacing right now. So just want to really recognize him for a job well done and everything that he does, and his name is Jim Bailey. So thank you for the opportunity to do that. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. That takes us to item 6.2 on our agenda this evening. That is our monthly enrollment and budget update with Ashley Murphy. Yes, you also are item 6.3, so just hang on. Hang on up there.
Okay. So we're going to start with the month of August 2025. Now, sort of piggybacking off of what I had said last month in regards to our budget status updates at this point. So we're currently in the process of closing our books on last school year. So financial statements are due around sort of the end of the first week of November. So we have to get it to the ESD here at the end of the month. So because we are a modified accrual district, we have a lot of revenues and expenditures that pass between last school year or last fiscal year and this current fiscal year. So as we go through some of these numbers, know that these aren't final for August, as in our expenditure values and revenue values likely aren't going to be exactly where they land for year end. In December, we will do our financial year end presentation in which you'll actually get final values for last school year. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. So what you can see in that, let's just call it red or pink for whatever color that actually is. Semicircle, we're looking at total collections for revenues being approximately 102.1% of budget of where we had actually budgeted. Now, with this being said, we will have grant revenues being accrued back, so we do anticipate this increasing past 102, likely will not hit 103 though, so we're talking a fractional increase left. Local sources right now, we're currently sitting at just under 104%. Local sources, like you're going to hear in one of our next presentations, local sources is not just local levy. So local sources can be levy, it can be money coming in from students paying for meals, individuals coming in and paying a fine or a fee. Those are all considered local sources. So we're currently sitting just under 104% there. State sources, we're currently sitting just over 102%. As a reminder, last year, our overall enrollment was over what we had budgeted, so we did bring in more state revenue than anticipated, hence the reason we're over 100%. In addition to that, we also applied and were successful for multiple state level competitive grants, which was good to see because that increases our state revenues from an unbudgeted capacity. Federal sources, we're currently sitting at about 85%. This doesn't mean that we're only going to get 85%. A good chunk of our claims occur during September, October, and then the revenues are accrued back to the prior year. So that's what we're working through. And by me saying what we're working through, I mean Chris and his business office team. So it's the universal we. Okay, next one, we're looking at the expenditure page. So that green semicircle is the one that I track. So board goal is 4 to 6%. You can see we're currently at 7%. So this number has been gradually decreasing, and it's because as we accrue those expenditures and those revenues, that number fluctuates quite a bit. So basically where we are at this point shows ending fund balance at 7.06%. Total expenditures, we're currently sitting at just under 104% of where we would have anticipated. You bring in more students, you get more revenues, you expect more dollars to go out the door. So that's a natural correlation that we're seeing there. Salaries and benefits are currently at just under 99%. This is an area that we're continuously cognizant of because of the vast majority of amount of our expenditures are actually made up in salaries and benefits. And so we ensure as positions become available or open, that that's something that we want to post at that time. Is it something that we're going to wait until the next school year to fill? And then as we make those decisions, you'll see us seeing a percentage less than 100%, which is what I would expect. Basic education, we're currently at just under 104%, so about 4% over what we had budgeted. Next slide shows our ending fund balance trend. The dark blue line is our current year trend data. And you can see sort of the upticks in October and in April, which are our levy collection months. And then you can see in June where it drops all the way down because that's one of our lowest apportionment collection months before they increase our apportionment collection percentage in the months of July and August. That green triangle is where we budgeted to end the year, so just under $8.5 million. And you can see right now that blue line is above $8.5 million, which is good. That's what we want to be able to see. So as of right now, we should be ending the year with a fund balance that's higher than what we had budgeted. Now, exactly how much higher, we don't yet know. As we get through the rest of our financial statement prep. but it is possible that we're going to see an ending fund balance about $1.5 to $1.8 million more than budgeted. Now, keep in mind, with increased enrollment and us being cognizant of the expenditures out the door, you would expect to be able to bank some of that to ending fund balance at year end. So we'll get more information on this trend line when we present in December for our year in review for financial statements. Okay, so this gives a more detailed look of exactly where the dollars are going in contrast to prior year. One thing of note, particularly here on this slide, is if you look at our total revenues of just over $163 million, total expenditures of $171 million, and you see that nearly negative $8 million number expenditure over revenue. That $4 million dollar value that you're seeing there under the other financing sources, those are the transfers from our safety, security, and technology levy into the general fund in order to pay for items that are not meeting that capitalization threshold that would be required to be coded into the capital projects fund. Therefore, you have to incur the expense in the general fund and then move the dollars over. So in reality, when you net those numbers, we're looking at spending approximately $4 million over revenues at this point right now where we're at financially. Ending fund balance is sitting there at just about $11.6 million prior to the rest of the accruals occurring. So next piece, this is a little snapshot of enrollment. This is the piece that I've been eyeing very closely, and I know for individuals in the audience, you're likely not able to see all those numbers up there. But in summary, what we're actually looking at is our October count, and we're talking without including open doors, without including running start, all those pieces, just actual kids that are in our schools all day in a full-time equivalent aspect. We're currently sitting at 8,380.4. For the 25-26 budget, though, we had budgeted 8,208 of those students that are in the classroom all day. So variance from budget, we are 172 students over budget. That's good news. Okay. Yes, that is great. Okay, now remember we did add 2.2 CERT FTE at the beginning of the year to help combat some of those overages. Now, when looking at where we are in comparison to budget, it's also important to look at where we are in comparison to last year because of declining birth rates, not only in Washington State, but across the nation. And the fact that we're really making a push in this district to reinvest back into our programs to help bolster our enrollment, bring kids here. Like, we want families to want to be here and bring their kids here and create those competitive programs. And so what we're finding is that although we did see reduced enrollment in elementary, which makes sense with declining birth rates, we saw increases in secondary. So the overall net impact then was approximately 76 student increase over last year. Okay, so we're still seeing those decreases. You can see that second grade is down 88. You can see that fifth grade is down 90 from the prior year, okay? But you see the increase then into sixth grade, that 71 kid increase. So you had a larger fifth grade class that was outgoing, a smaller fifth grade class coming into fifth grade for this year. Same thing, smaller first grade class moving up into second grade. Now, one of the things that's really nice that I'm tracking here is that increase to kindergarten. We have 28.5 FTE of kindergartners over where we were last school year. So that is good. We want to see that population grow because that will build our elementary schools as it moves through the system, and we'll see greater growth there in those areas. So ultimately, from an enrollment perspective, this is really good news. But it's not just happen chance. This doesn't just happen to materialize. We've had conversations regarding enrollment impacts in this district. The fact that our average starter home, in this community does not bring with it young school age children, elementary age kids. When an average home price in sort of Gig Harbor proper is just under $1 million, That's normally not the families that have very young kids entering school systems. So ensuring that we're continuing to reinvest into our programs, listen to the community, what does our community want to see as far as competitive programs in our schools, will help us continue to ensure that we're not going to get hit by these enrollment decreases that a lot of our neighboring districts, I-5 corridor districts, King County is seeing. Last board meeting, I reported on the fact that we were one of the only districts to see growth in our enrollment. So that's something that we're really scrutinizing and looking at right now and capitalizing on those growth areas to determine why we're seeing those positive growths in specific grade levels, what programs are leading that.
Ashley, I just wanted to share that I just received the most current enrollment out of Puget Sound ESD, which is King County and Pierce County. And I just wanted to concur with you. I mean, we have districts to the north of us that have 400 students less than they had anticipated and budgeted. And so, I mean, those are huge numbers of students that did not show for those districts. And they have already staffed for 400 students that did not show up. And so how important it is to when we talk about right sizing and we talk about staffing, to be very conservative, because there are districts that right now you can't really do much. I mean, you can do some things, but you can't do much with staffing. And that's, I mean, that's like an elementary school not showing up. And so it is dire for many school districts.
Yeah.
So as we look at programs and as we engage the community to talk about what programs are resonating with our community and what they want, what do families want, we become more and more attractive. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to concur with you because I just saw it this afternoon.
Yeah.
So since it's your last slide, I'm going to jump in. So revenue and expenses for previous school year, we were 1.72% deficit spending.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fortunately, our fund balance was good that we weren't having to worry about that, almost 2% deficit. There's those in the community, sadly, that say our school districts, our goals are too high and that we have unrealistic goals for wanting all our kids to be able to read, or that we want to be the best school district in the state rather than the best school district in Gig Harbor. The reason I say that is that in order to see this increase in enrollment that we're getting is due to something, and it's due to the fact that we have an outstanding school district and that we aren't sitting back being happy to just be the local best. We want to be the best in the state, because I moved to this school district, and we've had people at the podium over the past couple of months saying they moved to this school district because of our great schools, and that's why I moved to this school district. And so to be able to have a much higher enrollment now than by 75 kids higher, or I'm sorry, 172. That's huge. And the fact that we're having the causal impact of what's bringing more young kindergartners in the school district has to be our TK programs and what we're doing for our young kids. And so even though we may not have a community that's designed for starter families, we're still seeing that increase in that. And if that continues, then our cohort will start to increase. And we won't be in deficit spending again because our enrollment will make up the difference. So am I on point with saying that? Okay.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And that's one of the things that I've even been working with my peers across the state on, is those intentional investments back in to your programs, into your building that align to your community values, which help keep families engaged in your local public school district, which then helps combat the loss of enrollment. Because if you have families that are leaving the school district, and it's not just the lower birth rates, but you're compounding that lower birth rate issue with families also leaving, that's one of the issues that we're seeing, sort of like what Creston said, in our I-5 corridor. And it's a compounded effect because school districts right now, they're conservative in regards to their enrollment roll-ups. So it's not that when we say a district is losing 400 kids, those aren't 400 make-believe students that they just hope showed up at their door. These are students that were in the system and are now not. And so even at the state level, there's been conversations because there's so many districts impacted right now with this loss of enrollment over what they had budgeted. The state pays school districts from September to December based upon budget. The state now knows there is millions of dollars attributed to these students that are not in schools right now. So there's conversations at the state level about, hey, we need to balance the budget. We're putting the money into schools right now, even though we're gonna have to take it back away from them in January. Why don't we make schools go back and revise their budget predictions and their what's called the F203, our enrollment piece, and so that we can just start paying them less right now. Problem is, like Creston said, they staffed to those numbers. So if the state starts paying them less right now, how are they gonna make payroll come January? So it's sort of a double-edged sword in what we're seeing across the state in these communities in general.
Final thought on what I was saying is that looking at the numbers that we're seeing right now with your latest update, our school district is by far in a better place than most in the state. So really happy with
Correct.
that.
And I compared our numbers to schools in 3 counties. Okay, so that's all I had on this. Is there any other questions?
The 6th and 9th grade shifts that you mentioned, that's really interesting, isn't it? Do you know?
It is.
Yeah, I mean, it's so close to almost the same number. Exodus in 6th grade and then returning in 9th grade.
Yes.
Are any of those, is there a way to know if they're the same students?
We could.
Would that be two, that would be two?
No,
Yeah.
I can break down increases based upon the general populace, like, hey, how many of these kids have been in our system the entire time? How many of them are new to our system? How many of them are returning from homeschool, returning from private school? That's where we start seeing in our bumps in secondary, is even if a family committed to homeschooling in elementary, you normally see a percentage of those return for middle school, and then you see an increased percentage return for high school, hence the reason you start seeing bumps in 6th and 9th.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, that is very common because they will make a commitment to be in the middle school and/or be in the high school because
Yep.
they want that contiguous time. So families are either moving in intentionally and putting them in so that they can do their secondary, but without doing that longitudinally, yeah, we wouldn't know for certain, but.
Per student, we have percentages on number of kids choicing into the district, number of kids returning from homeschool, number of kids returning. We have all of that, but to literally track it individually, student to student, yeah, it sort of is. Yeah. Great.
Any questions from students? And I also apologize, Donna is still here. I did not give you an opportunity for transportation, so if you have questions on transportation or budget. Yeah, please.
I just wanted to comment on like how when you talked about the Stuff the Bus, I just feel like that's a great thing to be doing, because I talked about in our report of how much participation we had in our school our food drive at our school, and being able to reach out to the whole community and the proceeds going to all the food banks around the Gig Harbor area is, I think it's a really great thing. So that's all I wanted to comment on.
I had a quick question for the amount of students coming back each year. So I know like for 11th and 12th grade, that's running start.
Mm-hmm.
So how do those numbers factor in? Like, is it different if it's a full-time running start versus part-time? Or is it like if you do any running start, you don't count it all as a number? Or how does that work for our, like, I guess, dropping or adding students?
That is a great question. So running start, when we talk about student enrollment in FTE or full-time equivalent, there's a set minute threshold that students need to be present to be counted as a 1.0. And so for each, let's say, section that the kids aren't going to take within our high schools, but let's say they're gonna go over to TCC or OC, and they're gonna take 2 sections over there. They're a partial student here, let's say they're a 0.6 FTE, that's what they get counted as, and then TCC or OC counts the student for their reporting purposes to the state, and they get funded based upon that other portion.
Okay, so that takes care of 6.2. Now I'd like to call you back up to go. We're going to talk about our 2026 levy.
Okay, so I have Chris Bishop walking up here currently. So, yeah, so Chris is our Director of Finance and Business. So he's the one with his fingers in the dollars on a daily basis. So we're going to be jointly presenting this. And then if you guys have questions, it's up to you. Either ask them on the slide that we're on, or just wait till we're done, and then hopefully maybe we have slides in here that will have answered your questions. Now, one of the things to just point out, a good chunk of this information that's being discussed was included and discussed during our October 7th study session with the board. So some of this information is going to seem duplicative, or you have already heard it. So just bear with me as I want to provide some of the general insight for the greater community that was not there to hear the presentation during the board retreat, or study session, I guess it was. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, and I have the clicker, and did I do that? See, I told him, don't trust me with the clicker. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started with what grounds us in what our decisions are made based upon from a financial lens. One of the things that our departments and our buildings are getting really good at this point when determining what they're going to be spending their revenues on is, how is this grounded within the strategic plan? And by ensuring that we're aligning our spending to the strategic plan ensures that we're fulfilling those initiatives set forth. So as we go through this, we were looking at academic excellence, innovation, fiscal responsibility, the overall learning environment, and community engagement, so relationships with our community. We've hyperlinked the strategic plan in there for anyone that may not be familiar and want more information on the strategic plan for Peninsula, which obviously sunsets here in 2026, and we'll be going through a renewal process or a revisioning process. Okay, so we're going to have Chris get us started with our EP&O levy that is currently expiring at the end of calendar year 2026.
Yep. So this was a levy that was approved by voters in 2023. As Ashley mentioned, this is an expiring levy. So this isn't a new tax on the community. It'll just be a replacement. And the current levy provided levy funding for 2020 collection years, tax collection years 2024, 2025, and 2026. The 2024 amount was $27 million. Comes out to a estimated tax rate of $1.13 per $1,000 of property value. The 2025 amount was just over $28 million. Equals out to $1.12 per thousand, and then 2026 is just over 29 million, equals out to $1.11 per thousand. The levy spending plan, which you guys will see a more detailed version later on, you guys saw last week, a couple weeks back, it's designed to support the strategic plan, as Ashley mentioned, with purposeful investments into our programs. You guys will hear that term a lot, investments into our programs, to build out those programs, make our district attractive to students sometimes that are outside our district boundaries. With things like curriculum updates, outdoor education is a big topic right now. Something that really sticks out within our district is junior achievement, or BizTown. That's something that all of our buildings, we seem to get positive feedback on that, and that's something that's completely supported by levy. And then the last thing, there's a chart here. Levy funding provided 17% of total revenues in our general fund. Now you might notice that's different than the big orange pie slice. The big orange pie slice is 18.7%. That's local sources, as Ashley mentioned earlier. Local sources includes levy revenues, but it also includes things like investment interest, local grants and donations, fines and fees for if students damage Chromebooks and whatnot, things like that.
Okay, so in order to really start talking about what our levy needs are and what the levy ask would be, we really need to ground ourselves in the changes to the levy over the last handful of years. So in 2019, the legislature adopted ESSB, so in Gross Senate Bill 5313. So this, starting in 2020, created a new levy lid. The key piece of this is this term, lesser of, okay? And the reason why this is pertinent to our district is that beginning in 2020, with the passage of this bill, our district became a district that has their levy tied to the per student or per pupil dollar value. So in 2020, when it was passed, it was $2,500 per student, adjusted for inflation each year, for districts with fewer than 40,000. There's another piece, districts with more than 40,000 students had a higher dollar value, $3,500 per student. Now, the only district that is Seattle, okay? And so all the other districts have to abide by the lesser of these two numbers. So $2,500 per student or $2.50 per thousand of assessed property value, whichever is less. So a perfect example of where this district is, I took a snapshot from our pre-ballot authority document that we have to submit to OSPI to even get approval to put a ballot or to put a measure on the ballot. And this has you pick your first levy year, which would be 2027. And then the max per pupil for 2027 is $4,095. So you can see back in 2020, it started at $2,500 plus inflation each year. And the max levy per pupil, so calculating our enrollment times that number, would bring in just over $35.8 million. Then it does the calculation on $2.50 per thousand of assessed value, which would bring in $68 million. So the state has said it would be inequitable for Peninsula School District to levy $68,000 or $68 million from their community. So we're going to cap them at $35 million. The reason why the state created that lesser of language is tied to what's often called the levy swap or the levy swipe, depending upon who you're talking to. And that is when the state created the school tax 1 and school tax 2 that we see on our property statements. So a lot of community members see that and then make the assumption that those dollars are going to their local school district, when in fact the state taxed taxpayers across the entire state of Washington in order to create a pool of funding called Local Effort Assistance, LEA. What LEA does is it redistributes wealth, it redistributes tax dollars from what's considered affluent communities to communities of less affluence, okay? And so they bring in tax dollars from our community members, and because Peninsula School District is considered an affluent area, they take those dollars and they redistribute them outside the bounds of our district to other districts that don't have access to the same property value. Districts like Federal Way or Tacoma or University Place. So that's just simply a redistribution of tax dollars that are being collected by the state from our community and then passed on to other communities. So those taxes don't actually stay in your local school district if you are not a local effort assistance district, which we are not. So because they were going to be collecting these dollars from our local community, they knew it would be problematic to allow the district to actually then levy the same dollar value that these less affluent districts could levy. So they've capped it. So this district would be capped in 2027 at a levy value of $35.8 million based upon estimated or anticipated enrollment at that time. And that equates to about $1.30 per thousand of assessed value. That would be what's considered our millage rate, knowing that that's simply an estimate based upon assumptions that are made that we'll discuss later on in this presentation. And there's no way to know what that exact value will be until we certify our levy. And we certify our levies every year. So each November, I certify our levy for the upcoming calendar year based upon actual knowns, actual enrollment, actual assessed valuation. So we'll go into that here in a little bit. Okay, process and timelines. This is simply a snapshot. I'm not going to go through all of this. There's a lot of dates associated with levies, okay? What I've underlined is where we are right now. So there's been a good chunk of work that has already been done in August and September, even prepping to bring something to you guys today. And then we have filing dates and other deadlines in December in order to put something on the ballot for February. So if you want to know exactly when deadlines are, we've put a good chunk of those deadlines and information here. Okay, estimating levy authority versus financial needs. So there's two avenues that you need to go about to determine levy authority versus what the financial needs are of the district. So it would be bad business just to estimate your levy authority and go max every single time, right? Because ultimately, what is the need that you are trying to cover with those levy dollars? In order to be cognizant of our taxpayer dollars, we need to actually be able to show the financial need for those dollars. So we do have to make multiple assumptions for levy authority, and sort of like what you were seeing on the prior slide, student enrollment, your assessed valuation, and any upcoming or pending legislative rulemaking that may impact those. Like some of our peers are having to go out for what's considered supplemental levies because the state legislative body approved a levy lid lift that increased their levy authority if they could pass a levy at a higher dollar value, hence the reason they're putting supplemental levies on the ballot. So that's something to take into consideration when a district is working through the process of determining what levy value they need to run, what's our legislative rulemaking that may impact it. So then from there, once you have those simple assumptions done, then you're looking at what current financial assumptions is the district operating under that drives the need for levy financial assistance. So this is what we specifically took into account when building out a levy plan for subsequent years. Intentional investments into programs based upon community feedback. That is something that you're going to hear time and time again, because ultimately, in order to honor the strategic plan, in order to honor what our community states they want done, that's something that we need to ensure that we're purposefully investing into. The cost of the IPD, or implicit price deflator. So this is basically the COLA on salaries. So the state funds through the prototypical funding formula, which we're obviously going to talk about in a little bit, a certain number of positions at a specific set value for our district. So when they pass through the implicit price deflator, the IPD, they're doing so with a set percentage on positions that are currently prototypically funded. And they're doing it at the dollar value funded. So, for example, if a district like us is funded for $88,000 for each of our prototypically funded teacher, and IPD is 2.5%, they increase the $88,000 by 2.5%, and that is the total dollar value you're getting, regardless of how many teachers you actually have, regardless of how many staff you have. So each year, it's very important for us to do the calculations associated with what is the true cost of that, because it is never popular to take all your staff and just start picking and choosing who is going to get their COLAs. It's not a popular method to go about it. So we tend to give it to all staff. One of the other things that I've seen other districts do is they take the total value of the increase. Let's say the total value comes to $150,000. They turn around and split the $150,000 amongst the entire population and give them like a 0.5% increase. Again, not a super popular option, and most contracts make sure that they have language in there that ensures a pass-through of whatever IPD or the COLA is at that time. Then we look at currently, right now, unfortunately, we're having to look at impacts to anticipated federal funding or programs. So, like right now, there's a lot of impacts because they're not operating at the federal government level. So we had to look and see what could our potential funding losses be going into next year. You guys heard me talk in spring, May timeframe around loss of Title II, so our professional development dollars for certificated staff. You heard me talk about loss of funding for our multi-language learners at the federal level. anything really tied to the sort of that diversity spectrum of funding is basically on the chopping block right now. In addition to that, what they keep passing through right now is language in regards to state block grant possibilities. When we, Peninsula School District, hear state block grants, what that is telling us is that we are not going to be competitive for a state block grant. State block grants are normally divvied up based upon a priority criteria, which happens to do with your poverty percentage within your district and your demographics within your district. This could be your special education population, your multilanguage learner population, your actual diversity demographics. It could be tied to all of that. So right now, we don't have a ton of information in regards to what exactly they're tying it to. We just keep hearing, hey, you need to expect state block grants. So when it comes to that, if the state or if the feds were to truly go with a state block grant, give the money to OSPI, and then we apply to OSPI for them, we stand to lose potentially $1.3 million. And so we do already know some of the funding is gone. We're not getting Title II, so we're not getting PD dollars. We're not getting money for the multi-language learner population either. So those are knowns. So we've built the knowns into our levy plan in order to backfill those costs, and you'll hear more about that later. What we're also seeing, and this is not going to be a shocker, but costs just simply increasing and outpacing state revenues. And so I know we all feel it in personal budgets, businesses, school districts also feel it in their budgets as well. And so as we continue to either get unfunded mandates or costs passed down to us like liability insurance increases that are being impacted by the overall national and worldwide economic status, those impacts aren't being fully recovered through state revenues. So we also looked particularly at 2025 and 2026 budget shortfalls by program. So one of the things that Chris and Logan did this year as they were scrutinizing budget and creating that for this year is really look at money in the door in each of our individual programs. And by programs, I'm talking accounting speak for like our actual 4-digit program codes. And they go through and chart all the revenues and the expenditures associated with each program and look for those shortfalls. Where are we spending more than what we're bringing in? And is the reason that we're spending more due to student need? Is this something that, hey, we just need to cut back, or is there a true need in this area? And those areas where we found true needs, okay, we need to build it into our levy priority in order to sustain the program. We also looked specifically at curriculum replacement cycles and associated professional development to bridge the achievement gap. That is something that this district has been doing a lot of work on over the last 4 years and being really intentional regarding those investments into curriculum to help drive higher achievement scores in our student population. Curriculum is not cheap. And curriculum is becoming more expensive, even though there's less consumables, reoccurring subscription costs. In 10, 15 years ago, when you'd go out for an ELA adoption, you purchase a bunch of books, and then you have those books, and those books are good to go year after year until they're damaged, or you have more students and you need to buy additional copies. Nowadays, what we're finding is that a lot of curriculum is subscription-based. And so there's reoccurring yearly costs associated with licensing and keeping those subscriptions updated. And so it's no longer just a one-time cost with incremental supplemental costs throughout the duration life cycle of that curriculum. There's continual yearly costs associated with some of these curriculums. So knowing that, we need to ensure that we're budgeting for the longevity of these curriculum replacement cycles. We just did early ELA. We're in the process of doing math. We did high school sciences here, 2-3 years ago now. We know we're also looking at foreign language right now, Spanish in particular. And so those are those needs that we work with the teaching and learning team to determine what the proposed or potential costs could be for these and make sure we're building those into our sustainability matrix. And then it's also sort of tied up to the legislative rulemaking, looking at the review of pending legislative priorities. I know, so I'm on the WASBO legislative committee, in order to advocate for funding in specific areas. So we look at that, we look at what WASDA's doing, we look at what WASA's doing, and in all reality, we reach out to our contacts to determine if we can anticipate anything in the upcoming legislative season. I know what our group is hearing is no, that the state doesn't necessarily have the money to pass on a bunch of additional money to public school districts. There might be something for special education, and by might, I'm talking something in all reality, which would be budgetarily insignificant for a school district, but ultimately, the priority isn't going to be public schools. And again, this is the second half of a biennium, so it's really just truing up budget to expectations at that point. So since we know that we're not going to be expecting, one, a long season, and two, a ton of action at the Hill in regards to public school districts right now, we need to make sure that we're living within what we have as far as known revenues. Okay. So this sort of piggybacks off of some of the pieces that I had said in the last slide, which is staffing over state-funded FTE. If you recognize this chart, it's because I presented off of it in May, and I just stole it from that presentation because the data in here is still what we look at. So one of the things that I explained at that time is that prototypical staffing is given to us through 3 different categories. So it's certificated staff, or what's called CIS. Those are positions that require a teaching certificate in order to hold that position. So it's not necessarily just classroom teachers, but if you have a teacher on special assignment position that requires a certificate, let's say like a reading interventionist, then that would also be looped into this area. Then you have CAS, which is your principals or your administrative individuals that are even in a district office that are required to have an administrative certificate to hold that position. And then you have classified staff, CLS. So the state funds us at different rates for each of these positions. So certificated staff, again, this data is for last school year, 24-25, so year in a review. We were funded for just under 448 cert positions. We had 578. So we were over the prototypical funding by 130, just under 131 positions. The state for last year was funding us at $88,400 per staff member. One of the things that I do want to make note of is that they were funding us at that percentage when we still had the last remaining percentage of our experience factor. Because remember, we were at 4%. Last year, we went down to 1%, and so now we have 0. So even though the IPD, that implicit price deflator that we got, was 2.5% on prototypically funded staff, they took away the 1%. So in reality, we only got 1.5% of an increase. And so this is the state stating that teachers, regardless of experience level, would be making $88,376. Okay, so that is what the state is fully funding for them. Total state funding then amounts to just under $40 million. Our actual costs out the door is just under $60.4 million, meaning that we have a shortfall in funding of approximately $20.9 million. You take that same rationale aside from the experience factor, because you don't get experience factor on administrative positions or classified. But we're funded for 32 administrators. We have 41. We're over by 8.9. Prototypical funding for an administrator is just over $130,000. Total state funding coming in is $5.2 million. We have a actual cost of 9.5, so we're short for just under 4.3 million. Classified staff, we're funded for 139 total positions. And when we're talking classified, we're talking everything from a paraeducator to your CFO, your finance director, the entire business office, all of HR, all of payroll, every position, support position that is in an educational building. So your office managers, your bookkeepers, all of those positions, 139 total. And we have 17 educational buildings alone in this district. And so we are over by 202 positions. Now, the state funds each one of those positions at approximately 62.9 thousand. And we have approximately just under $23.3 million out the door. So we have a shortfall of funding of 11.7 million, just under 11.8 million on that side. And so when we talk about there being a need for sustainable levy funding in order to offset costs, and we'll go into our partially shaded people in just a sec, it's the fact that districts, our prototypically funded staff, aren't even fully funded in the vast majority of the situations. So they fund an FTE at the value the state has placed on that position. And then if a district has negotiated wages higher than that, then the district is expected to make up the difference. So our partially shaded people. So Chris is going to talk a little bit in regards to these specific prototypical funding examples.
Yep. So these were some of the biggest shortfalls that we found when looking at the data. Custodians, the state funds us for 34 custodians. We have 17 school buildings, plus a few others that are administrative and whatnot. If each, say our high school, Gig Harbor High School had 2 custodians, that high school is not going to be very clean. So we staff based on need, and we have to make up the difference, which for custodians is 15.4 FTEs. We have to make up the difference out of levy. And these are really good visuals to kind of put what we're saying, make it simple to see and read and digest. Technology support salaries is another big one. You've heard Ashley talk about this. The prototypical funding model is based on, and correct me if I have the wrong year, but the 1978 technology needs of schools. Well, technology looks a lot different than it did back then. We're funded at 4.7 FTEs, just over 4.7 FTEs. We fund from the levy 8.2 FTEs for just our technology support salaries. Psychologists is another one. The state does not fund very much for psychologists. They fund 1.3, just over 1.3 FTEs. The levy funds almost 9.5 FTEs, and psychologists are staff that are doing evaluations to see if students qualify for special education, if they need 504s and whatnot, and that's kind of goes along the lines of unfunded mandates.
Because this is a specific area, like I've had multiple individuals say, well, we don't believe in mental health supports in schools, okay? So it's not a public school district's job to provide mental health supports, and they see the word psychologist and assume that our kids are getting mental health, like psychology type counseling at school from these psychologists. These psychologists are needed and required in order to fulfill our needs in other mandated, federally and state mandated areas. So if a district were not to have a levy, it doesn't mean that they can go in and then cut the just under 9.5 psychologists that are not funded by the state, because the school district is still required to carry out those paramount duties. And so ultimately what the district has to do is they have to reroute funding, cover the psychologists with, let's say, excess state funding, so you don't have all those certificated librarians, you have library tech, so that dollar value now you're going to utilize to cover psychologists. And then what the district does is they cut from other enrichment areas, let's say athletics or clubs or positions along those lines, because you cannot do the paramount duties of a school district and not have psychologists.
And then the last one there, this is a repeat from the last levy presentation 3 years ago. School nurses, the state funds 11.8 FTEs, levy funds 12.5. School nurses are needed at buildings, at every school building that has a student with an anaphylactic allergy, students with diabetes that need monitoring, and insulin, they need to monitor insulin intake. So again, this is a need. If the levy wasn't there, those staff are still there.
Okay, I do not expect for everyone to be able to read the snippet, but just for sake of transparency, we've just included what would be considered a proposed or draft levy spending plan that shows calendar year 2026 and then calendar years 27, 28, and 29 with the different subject areas and activities that levy dollars would be spent on. We have aligned this to match my monthly budget status presentations, how we present our financial data, how we talk about our specific program areas under funding in order to increase transparency. We've aligned all of these areas to those specific areas that we present on so that it's very clear where the dollars are going. So in the 27-29 proposed levy spending plan, we are proposing for increased funding over the prior levy spending plan for these specific bulleted areas, one of them being staffing over state-funded full-time equivalent employee FTE. Okay, so that's sort of where we saw those reds coming in the prior slide where our base salaries are over what the state is funding, or our total number of positions is over what the state is funding. And then we have maintenance and facility improvements. And so we hear regularly in regards to our need for increased maintenance for both facilities like actual hardened structures, but also fields, athletic fields, playgrounds. And so making sure that we have a dedicated revenue stream for that is also important. Curriculum and curriculum supports. This is one of those big things that, and mind you, I already talked about it, so I'm not going to go into detail on this, but in order to ensure that we're going to be bridging that achievement gap, we have to be investing in state-of-the-art, like science-backed curriculum to help our students achieve at higher levels. Music and the arts. So this is an area that we've done our arts audit. We've heard from our community regarding the desire to expand music and art offerings within the district to include orchestra. Okay, I have stood up an orchestra program at one of my prior districts. It is it's a very worthy investment. It's a very expensive investment to get off the ground, but for that student population that is attracted to something like orchestra, we saw so much success with our students participating in that program. So one of the things that we're doing is we're building out total dollars available for music and the arts. So not just orchestra, but band and choir and drama and all of those classes and courses and clubs that are associated and draw our students to the district. Also, we wanted to put in an intentional investment into our transition to kindergarten program. So unfortunately, the state legislature, they stopped allowing increases to the transition to kindergarten program. So what that is it's basically a second year of kindergarten for students, but it occurs when the student is 4 years old. And so they go through, it's a full educational day. At 4, what we're finding is that our students who have gone through the formal TTK program, or what used to be called just simply the transitional kindergarten class, we found that by the time they're in 3rd grade, they are succeeding when compared to their peers at higher levels, because a lot of that social emotional aspect of learning to be a school student at the age of 5, and how do we stand in line and how do we play nice with our friends, at recess, and how do we sit in our chairs and focus on the lesson. A lot of those skills then are learned at a younger age, and then when they transition and they're in a formal kindergarten class, they've already gotten all of that out of the way. They know how to stand in line. They know how to, sit down, work on their work. They're good role models for their peers who maybe haven't gone through that program. So prior to the state capping the enrollment and funding in that program, we were able to get in 6 programs in 6 of our buildings, 6 of our elementary buildings. The desire is to build it out in the other 4 elementary buildings so that all of our students have the opportunity to participate in the program in their school that they're going to go to in kindergarten and 1st and 2nd grade, so that they're with their peers and they're not being bused to different areas and then being put back into a school where they don't know their friends that they met when they were in TTK. So there's intentional funding in there in order to support the build out of 4 more classes in our last 4 remaining buildings for TTK. In addition to that, there's always going to be a need for levy dollars to support athletics and extracurricular supports. There is no funding available at both the state and federal level that offsets the cost of athletics or extracurricular supports, okay? And I'm talking about funding coming directly from the state and federal government. A lot of individuals, and we had a short conversation during the study session in regards to, we'll just make everything pay to play. We, the Finance Audit Committee, did a study last year in regards to what we could potentially bring in by doing a pay-to-play model versus the benefit that we would receive. So how much finance or revenue would we bring in versus what would be the overall impact? And what we found is we could potentially, depending upon dollar value of what we put out there for sports, like are we willing to charge $200 per sport, even for someone who's a 3-sport athlete, we could bring in approximately $300,000. The issue is that our athletic programs in this district run us in excess of $3 million to operate. So that 300,000, yeah, it's approximately 10-ish%. But then at that point, how is that going to become a barrier to some students who aren't going to participate? One, because they're in a situation where even asking, the parents to contribute, at $200, $600 or whatever for participation is just, they're not going to be able to do that. So they don't ask. Whereas right now, if you want to participate and you pay your ASB card, that's the only thing that sits out there right now, unless you're a free or reduced student, and then that's also waived. That's it. And then you can play as many sports as you can for each of those seasons, right? And so athletics and extracurriculars, that is a levy-funded initiative. Part of that is also looking at, we've heard from our middle school community that there's a desire to build out middle school sports. So Wendy has sort of commissioned a committee that's really looking at what that could potentially look like over the next few years. In addition to that, I know that you guys have heard me talk at length in regards to our nutritional service improvements that we're seeing with the change in contractor from Sodexo over to Aramark. One of the things that we've also found is, and which is natural anytime you have a change in vendors after 40 years, is that we have equipment needs. So we have, thankfully, due to community support and the passage of the 2019 bond, our buildings that were remodeled or built out new have state-of-the-art equipment in their kitchens. And so they're able to provide high-caliber scratch-cooked meals in these kitchens, whereas our older buildings do not have the same equipment. And so we want to be able to provide the same dining experience for all of our students, regardless of what school they're in. But in order to do so, we need to purchase the same equipment that are in our newer kitchens and put them in the older kitchens that haven't been remodeled. We also are seeing a need for funding for the Transitional Bilingual Instructional Program, TBIP. So again, this is funding that's associated with our multi-language learner population. And we know that the federal government has already made some commitments to cut that funding. We need to ensure that our students who are multi-language learners are getting the same opportunity to achieve that their peers are. And in order to do so, sometimes their supports look different, and we need to have the funding in order to backfill that. And then lastly, the highly capable self-contained program. So the state funds highly capable by a simple math equation. 8% of your student population is assumed to be highly capable, regardless of what your district's population of highly capable actually is. So they just make the assumption that it's 8%, then they fund you based on a funding inflator for that population. So our district draws in about $298,000 for the highly capable program. There's 2 ways of running a highly capable program. One is you differentiate curriculum for your identified highly capable students, but they're in their gen ed classroom with peers, and we just differentiate the curriculum through their teacher. Second is the program that we have within Peninsula School District, and so it's considered self-contained classrooms. So our students that have been identified as highly capable and elect to go into a self-contained classroom, they're amongst peers that are also highly capable. And so then we also have teachers that they specialize in highly capable instruction and differentiation. And what we often see are split grade levels. So, you know, a 3 or a 2, 3, 4, 5 type split level class. Now, that type of a structure is just simply more expensive because they're self-contained. So the state is only giving us $300,000 total to run off of. And if an average teacher salary with benefits is upwards of $165,000, you could only have 2 classes across a district of our size, which isn't going to equate to much for a self-contained. So we utilize levy dollars to help supplement and support that self-contained model for highly capable, which this district has had for decades. So this isn't like a recent change where the district has gone to self-contained classrooms. This is the model the district has always used. So those are areas where we're seeing increased and purposeful investments into different programs. Okay.
On the next slide, you're going to see a chart, and what the chart is highlighting is the gray rows from the table that you see right there. So it's just a more segmented view to kind of categorize expenditures.
Okay, so like Chris was saying, you can see that the biggest chunk is staffing over state-funded FTE. It's salaries. And then you go into, with this levy spending plan, we would be allotting approximately $4.5 million to preventative and routine maintenance. Replacement cycles and sustainability is currently, would be at about 3.15 million. Building level allocations, so dollar values that are, that go directly into building level budgets is just under 2%. Instructional programs, is at 7.1%. Extended day activities, so that would be athletics and activities, is sitting at just under 8%. And professional development, specifically professional development for certificated staff, would be just under 4%. So that just takes that other image and breaks it down to, out of the total levy value, what percentage would be spent on what. And that, I'm sorry, one clarifier, that was for calendar year 2027. Because each year builds upon itself, so giving a snapshot of the approximate value. Okay, so from there, when we talk about levy spending plans, we have to talk about what is considered an enrichment activity. So based upon the post-McCleary language, levy collections can be used to fund educational programs and operations that are not funded by the state, so not funded by state basic education, and there's an RCW that governs that. It has to be considered enrichment, and it can be considered enrichment if it does one of those 3 bullets. So minimum instructional offerings, staffing ratios, or various program components above what the state is funding, or professional learning above what the state is funding. Then they've gone one step further and provided another list of items that are expressly permitted, which includes extracurricular activities, extended school days, extended school year, like if, for example, summer school, you can use it for summer school. Additional course offerings, which obviously we do see, AP classes or college in the classroom classes, those are all considered additional course offerings because they're not being funded by the state. There are costs associated with that and the district pays for them. Activities associated with early learning programs. So you heard about the build out of TTK. That would be considered an early learning program, hence the reason it would be allowed to be funded with the levy. Any additional salary costs attributed to enrichment activities, so stipends. So if we have a teacher who's going to run a club for us and they receive a stipend for that, that would be expressly permitted based upon this. And additional activities or enhancements that OSPI determines to be documented and demonstrated enrichment of basic education. These normally come in little provisos after the fact where they say, hey, FYI, because we didn't give you X number of funding last year, you can now count this activity as enrichment for the prior year. So go back and look and see if you have any of it. So those are what actually constitute enrichment per RCW for the use of levy funding. And then we get audited on this each year. So, and I want to just put that out there. So I've gone through 3 audits now here for this district, and we have never had an issue with our local levy spending. So not one single issue at any level in regards to our local levy spending. So they audit it, and they have always found us to be in compliance with the RCW, our levy spending plans, all of that. Okay, again, this is another chart on the right-hand side that I don't expect for you all to be able to read, but you can see where the blue line is on the bottom. So one of the things that I start looking at when prepping for a levy is just how we rank amongst other districts, okay? So we're looking at 2025 tax rates, and I'm saying tax rates in general because it's inclusive of bonds, it's inclusive of EP&O, it's inclusive of capital levies, and if a district were running a transportation levy for their TVF fund, their transportation vehicle fund, it would also be included on here. So currently, we are the 4th lowest total combined tax rate among all districts in King, Kitsap, Pierce, and Thurston County. I started with just Pierce and Kitsap, and I was like, hey, like, I'm seeing a common denominator here. So then I pulled in King and Thurston and noticed that we were continually on the bottom as far as total tax rates. One of the things I want to point out in regards to the 3 districts underneath us currently, Yelm has no EP&O levy. They had a double levy failure. So they're second to the lowest, but their total dollar value coming in for tax rate is for their bond. Skykomish has a total of 43 students, and so they are under us currently. And then Mercer Island, who has a total student population of just under 3,800 students for the 25-26 school year. One of the things to note, though, with Mercer Island is their total percentage of their local levy, because they are right underneath us. They're 3rd lowest. But their total percentage of their budget, since they're about half of our size, their total percentage of their budget that they're collecting from local sources is 3% above what we are collecting from our local sources. So they bring in about 21.7% of their overall budget from local community, and we're bringing in 18.7. Now, again, that number isn't just EP&O levy, it's all local sources coming in. But again, they're about 3% above where we are currently. Then what we did is we said, okay, if we're just going to look at this massive amount of words and numbers on the right-hand side and put it into a graph format, what is the graph telling us? Okay, so we pulled the total EP&O tax rate, just EP&O for all of those areas, and we averaged it. So the average EP&O tax rate amongst all 4 of those counties is $1.61 per thousand of assessed value. Ours for 2025 is $1.11. Okay, so when you can see that we're 4th lowest on the list, but also just in comparison to overall average is $1.61, we're at $1.11 currently, 2025. Okay, so, and I know this is really invigorating, you guys. I'm going to try to speed it up. We're almost there, though. It's not going to take that much longer. Okay, so this is just a chart. I've gone back and I've taken prior assessed value of property within the school district boundaries from 2004 all the way to 2025 to look at percent increases year after year. And in addition to that, one of the things that we also need to be cognizant of, because it's tied to our assumptions, is new construction value. So when a district has new construction value within the boundaries of their district, the total dollar value being approved by that local community for levy, so let's say hypothetically $35.8 million, that $35.8 million, as property values increase, it doesn't create a direct comparative increase in your property value statement, because new construction value rebalances that total $35.8 million amongst a larger paying population. And so you don't necessarily see a dollar for dollar increase, and that's why. So one of the things I pulled is what our new construction value is versus assessed total value in order to come up with some comparisons and assessed valuation trends for the future. Even though we can't collect based upon assessed valuation, but it's still good to determine what could potentially occur with millage rates based upon assessed valuation and new construction value. Okay, we took information from the prior chart and we just wanted to put it into bar graph form. So over the course of the last 10 years, where has Peninsula School District's historical combined tax rate been? You can see back in 2015, they were at about $2.80 per thousand. And then on the far right-hand side, you're seeing what the 2027 proposed would be. Now, I want to say this is combined. So this is bond, this is safety, security, and technology, and educational programs and operations levy. So we were at 280. You can see how you start to dip, and then there's an increase, and then you dip, and there's an increase. Those increases, for the vast majority of them, are during new levies, right? When you go out for that replacement or that renewal levy, except for in 2019, you can see that the district dropped all the way to $1.82, and then the next year we're up at 228, bond passage. Okay, so that's where the district started seeing that bond dollar value come into play, and then you can see it drop again until 2023, where then we ran the new levy and we were up at the $1.90, and then it's dropped again. So what is being proposed would be a total combined value of $1.99, but you can see that it's under the $2 threshold, and from a 10-year perspective, it's sort of right where this district has been for years. Okay, so Peninsula School District's total estimated proposed tax rate for 2026 versus 2027. One of the key components of this is the fact that I have not certified our 2026 levy. So certification of our 2026 levy is due on November 27th. And so in order to certify that, I have to take our October enrollment, vet everything, go through that process. So I'm going through that process right now. So again, this is an estimate, sort of what I was saying during the study session. This could swing a penny in either direction. So it could either go to $1.79, it could go to $1.81, depending upon where our certification lands. Now, technically, I push the certification to the county. The county reconfigures all my numbers. They do their count, and then they're the ones that propose and put forward what the actual tax rate's going to be. So for 2026, we could be looking at an EP&O millage rate of $1.10, SS&T being at 25 cents, and then our bond at 45 cents. So for 2027, so this would be calendar year 2027, which would be the first year of a replacement levy. Bond would be at approximately 44 cents. Safety, security, and technology levy would be approximately 25 cents. And what is being pushed forward as a proposal for our EP&O levy would be $1.30. Again, these are simply estimated rates because I don't necessarily know what's going to occur in calendar year 2026 that will impact 2027, but based upon total dollar values right now, that's where we would be at. So then what does that mean for the taxpayer? Okay, so what's the proposed community investment? We ran two different figures, and we were explicit in running the two different figures because we're taking median home value of the Key Peninsula versus median home value of sort of what I tend to call Gig Harbor proper. There's two completely different values when it comes to median home value. So Gig Harbor proper would be closer to $1 million, whereas the Key Peninsula is closer to $500,000. So the estimated tax rate for calendar year 2026, as you just heard, is going to be approximately $1.80, whereas proposed would for calendar year 2027 would be $1.99. So a $500,000 house value under the $1.80 combined rate in a year would have brought in $900, and on a $1 million home would bring in approximately $1,800. And for the proposed calendar year 2027, it would be $995 a year for a $500,000 house, or $1,990 for a $1 million home in calendar year 2027. So what that equates to as far as a total dollar variance, and this is a year, would be $95 a year for a $500,000 home and $190 a year for a $1 million home, or approximately $7.92 a month for the $500,000 home, or $15.83 a month for a $1 million home. Now, what I do want to say is that is not just the EP&O percentage. That is EP&O, safety, security, and technology, and bond. All three of those combined, that is what our taxpayers would be paying if we move forward with the resolution as currently drafted. It's the combination of all of those that bring in the $1.99.
So then, this is our last slide, guys. We're almost there. So then, what are we doing tonight? We're bringing a resolution to the board, asking you guys to take action and give us authority to go out for a levy on February 10th, 2026, for a duration of 3 years, with levy values equaling for 2027, it would be 35.8 million. For 2028, it would be 37.8 million, and for 2029, it would be 39.8 million. Each of those years, the estimated millage rate would be $1.30 per thousand of assessed value. And as Ashley's mentioned a couple of times, that actual rate is calculated by Pierce County during November when she certifies.
Hey. Now we go into board comments, questions, discussion.
I have one pretty quick question. I'll just start. Can you go back to the slide on the expressly permitted enrichment activities? There's that, and then I think the next one is also the pie chart. So okay, can you talk about how the building maintenance falls under those categories, or how we're able to fund that?
Which piece of the pie would be under that?
No, so you've got that, hold on, let me go to the same slide. So we've got the ongoing maintenance and preventative maintenance.
Oh, which area of the enrichment activities?
Yes.
Got it. So the state does not fund the total cost of facility maintenance, upkeep, roof replacements, anything like that. What they consider their funding percentage is what people who have been around for a little while know as SCAP, right? So it's like the state match funds that the state puts forward towards the building or remodel, like large remodel of a new facility. And so the state feels that that's their contribution towards maintenance of facilities. So in our general monthly apportionment, they are not paying us for maintenance of facilities. They consider that one-time lump of cash their allocation for that. So because the state is not funding upkeep of facilities, then that's what allows it to be considered permitted under the levy enrichment. Correct. That's exactly right.
In that same vein, since we're on the topic, can you talk about where the Clean Buildings Act fits into this?
Okay. So, no matter how much I try just pretending like this is going to go away, I don't think it's going to go away. So the Clean Buildings Act has been legislatively changed a few times over the course of the last several years. But basically, and I know a good chunk of people have already heard us talk about it, it's a state mandated, in all reality, a preventative maintenance program that requires districts to ascertain total energy usage in buildings, energy waste in buildings, and then provide a certain percentage of reductions in total energy usage, even in a brand new building. Like, it doesn't matter if you just completely, like Swiftwater, you completely outfitted everything and light dimmers and you have blinds, you have all of this kind of stuff, you're still going to have to show an energy reduction. So what is required is that and this isn't just schools, public entities have to go through and they have to do this audit. We have to submit information over to the state. We have to show energy efficiency increases. Now, in our older buildings, that is not a simple feat. When you have HVAC units that are 40 plus years old and they just naturally require a significant amount of energy in order to run or operate nowadays. And so what we are finding is that a lot of public entities right now are doing math to cost out what the compliance fees are for not being in compliance versus what the cost could be to truly get into compliance. Now, a lot of individuals are being like, but there's so many grants out there that will help you. They'll help us fund where our base is, but what it's not going to fund is replacing Minner Creek's HVAC system, which needs to be replaced. That is going to be on the district and is unfunded mandate that unfortunately now is because of the Clean Buildings Act. So in those type of situations, this district could be looking at $20 to $30 million worth of costs in order to even get into compliance that truly are unfunded. And so it's doing that calculation. Now, what we have done in that pie chart piece, you got it? Okay, you can see there's a section for $4.5 million for facility maintenance. A piece of this would be working towards getting into compliance with the Clean Buildings Act. We have like another 18 months-ish before, unless legislatively something changes, before we could start hitting this fine era. So a piece of it would be to work on getting sustainable plans in place in order to get into compliance. Then in addition to that, if we show that it's financially, like the district can't afford to truly get into compliance, there's ways for us to apply for a waiver if we show a specific plan to the state that we're working towards it. So ultimately, there's some money being built into the facility side for this, but ultimately what the state is not taking into account is we have more issues than just energy usage that requires maintenance dollars. And like I had said previously, when the state considers their contribution towards maintenance, the one-time SCAP or state match funding you get, we don't have a sustainable revenue cycle for facility maintenance. And so oftentimes, the costs associated with that are then we heavily rely on levy for that. So, roof or HVAC issues or anything like that. So we have increased the overall percentage that would be going into facility maintenance beginning in calendar year 2027. But it's not just to get into compliance with the Clean Buildings Act, but it's also to just have a dedicated revenue stream, because there isn't one at the state or federal level, in order to ensure that we're simply maintaining facilities. And by facilities, I'm talking about hardened facilities, fields, basically property owned by the district.
I was just going to say, on the Audit and Finance Committee, I've been through this multiple times.
Yes, you have.
But I just want to thank you and your staff for doing a great job. 2 weeks ago, we had a full study session on all of this and allowed people in the community to come and watch, allowed us to ask a lot of questions. So I think the board has pretty much asked a ton of questions already around this. And one of the benefits of being on the Audit Finance Committee is you get to see it 2 or 3 extra times. So
I like that.
I don't have questions. I just think that I just wanted to make a statement that your staff has done a really, really good job laying out the requirements, the needs, and setting us up where we are against comparable school districts across the state, and laid out your case very nicely. So thank you.
Very invigorating, I know.
Okay, well, no further questions. A little bit later in this meeting, not too long from now, you've mentioned one of the next steps is that in order for us to move forward with this, the board has to approve the resolution, which you have written for us, and that resolution just basically authorizes school district to go out for a levy, for this levy in 2027, a special election that has to be approved by voters through a simple majority. And then once that resolution is passed, we authorize the superintendent and designated staff to coordinate with OSPI, correct, and the county auditor.
So we have coordinated with OSPI. So there's 2 different options for coordinating with OSPI. You pre-coordinate, or you post-coordinate. So if you pre-coordinate and you need to make adjustments afterwards, you can do so. But because we just are so on top of it, we already pre-coordinated with OSPI. So if there is nothing that changes, OSPI, the state, has already given us the green light to move forward, which means they have vetted our levy activities, our levy spending plan. Like, they have looked at everything to ensure that what we were even going to propose meets all of the guidelines associated with the RCW. that is one thing that I wanted to ensure that we had done beforehand, because we wouldn't want to propose something that would violate that RCW and then be having to come back to the board and say, take back, never mind. So the state has already looked at everything that we've put together, and they have stated that it meets all the guidelines. And so ultimately, if a resolution were passed, then we're right on track to get everything submitted to the county for inclusion on the ballot.
Okay, great. Well, we will do that in just a minute. I'm going to ask you, though, Ashley, if you would stay up here for just a second. We have
Okay.
consent agenda next, which generally
yeah.
is something we just vote on very quickly. But this evening, we have an incredibly long one. So if you could just speak to
Why?
some of these that are about, related specifically, this is a question that Director Glover had about, if you want to.
Yeah, I just thought it might be useful to touch briefly on why there are so many items in this month's in the consent agenda, particularly many travel requests for things in the future, and how it is. This comes up often just because when you look at the forms, which is a great way to be very transparent about the way funds are spent and the way different things are funded, but things like an elementary school going to camp, how come that looks different, maybe what pays for it from one school to the next.
Okay, so there's multiple things that have sort of convened at this point to create such a long consent agenda. One is that we are on top of it, okay? So one of the things that constantly trips us up sort of at a building level is, hey, if we're gonna have overnight travel, we need board approval for that in order to ensure that we're being mindful of our policies, okay? And we don't want to violate a policy, but we also do not want to impact our kids being able to participate in these programs. So one of the things that you're going to find on there are state travel requests, right? For state athletic events. Now, we don't know whether our teams made that state event yet, but by putting it on the agenda right now and getting the pre-approval, it's basically, it's twofold. One, if the kids make it, we have done everything necessary in order to secure their travel. But in addition to that, it allows us to start that process earlier, ensuring that we can get lower cost travel arrangements for the exact same thing that they would be going to. So lower cost hotel rooms, lower cost charters, because we've planned ahead of time versus waiting until the week something occurs. In addition to that, often when kids make state for athletics, we don't find out until a week prior to the playoff games. And then if there's not a board meeting during that time period, that then puts us in a situation where we may be violating our own policy. So one of the things that Wendy did this year, working with her building level athletic directors, is really push for, hey, any overnight travel that you know you're going to have, let's get it on the agenda now. Let's get it approved, and then we can plan accordingly as we move forward throughout the year. So that's why you're seeing a lot of the athletic pieces right now. Then, in addition to that, the camp one is perfect to bring up as an example because it also allows me to state that prior to the end of last school year, the state was providing Peninsula School District just under $200,000 towards fifth grade camp. Guess what happened with all the cuts? That funding went away. So these elementary schools were able to build an outdoor ed program camp opportunity, submit it to the state, and the state was funneling $15,000, $30,000 to the elementary schools in order to cover camp costs. We found out very late in the year, like May-ish, that the state had cut the funding for the program and that we would be losing $200,000 towards these camps going this year. So one of the things that we did was immediately communicate it out to the buildings so that the buildings could start working with their fifth grade teams and their PTAs, PTOs, booster clubs to determine what type of camp experience do we want for our students and what can we do to help fund it. So district budget gave $5,000 to each elementary school to contribute to help offset costs. And then from there, each building determined with their fifth grade team and with their parent groups what camp was going to look like for their students. Now, at the district office, because of the reduction in funding, one of the things that district, like our executive cabinet is doing is reevaluating camp in the future, what this looks like as far as funding commitments and all of that. So we're undergoing that process right now, which will include parent surveys, community surveys, all that kind of stuff. So more to come on that. But one of the reasons you're seeing that come through in the variance in cost, some buildings are more comfortable doing 1 overnight. Some buildings prefer 2 overnights. And so it does not look the same in each one of our elementary schools. And it can differ from year to year, depending upon the grade level team, the students in that grade level and what their needs are. And in addition to that, what our parent groups feel comfortable committing towards the outdoor camp program for that year. And so you will see really stark differences based upon the building. But again, this is building-driven decisions that take into account teacher needs, student needs, and the community support as well.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Okay.
Okay, so we will move on to the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion prior to our vote? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by David and seconded by Lori to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried and the consent agenda has been approved. Thank you, Ashley. Item 8, these are our discussion and action items. The first one is the approval of the second reading of policy. This is a renumbering of policy 5200 to 5201, drug-free schools, community, and workplace. This is some minor language change, renumbering and a formatting. It's pretty basic. So is there any discussion before we approve the second reading, which is formally adopting this change? Is there a motion to approve the second reading of policy 5200, renumbering it to 5201, drug-free schools, community, and workplace?
I'll move to approve the second reading of policy 5200 to 5201.
Second.
It's been moved by Jennifer and seconded by Lori to approve the second read of policy 5200 to 5201. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, motion is carried. The second read of policy 5201 has been approved. Okay, item 8.2, this is the approval of our levy resolution. This is resolution 25-12. Unless someone really wants me to, I'm not going to read it out loud. It's 6 pages long. It's very, very legal, but really it just outlines everything that our last presentation was about, and it gives our authority to the school district to go out for this resolution, or to go out for this replacement levy in February of 2026, to begin in 2027. Okay. Is there any discussion? Further discussion? Okay, is there a motion to approve levy resolution 25-12?
I'll move to approve levy resolution 25-12.
It has been moved by Jennifer and seconded by David to approve levy resolution 25-12. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the motion is carried. Levy resolution 25-12 has been approved. And I just want to note that Director West was not able to be here tonight, but in accordance with our meeting from 2 weeks ago, he is in support of this as well, even though he's not here to vote on it. So before I do anything else, I'm going to make sure we all sign it while we're up here. So this is the official resolution. We're going to sign it and make sure that you have the signed copy today. Yeah, okay, you can have it whenever. Okay, we'll go this way first. Okay. All right, that takes us to item 9, public comments on non-agenda items. We do have someone signed up, Michael Perot. Saw that he was here and is no longer here. I'll call him one more time. Michael Perot. Okay, I'm gonna call him, make sure. No, thank you. Okay, so there are no further comments on non-agenda items. That takes us to item 10, superintendent's report.
All right. So October is can you believe that we're almost towards the end of October? All right. This really is a meaningful month in Peninsula School District as we recognize several important causes and thank those who make a difference every day. We have celebrated and we will continue to celebrate National Principals Month. Thank you to our principals for their dedicated leadership and the positive impact that they have on students, staff, and families. It is also Disability History and Awareness Month. This is a time to honor the contributions of people with disabilities and to promote inclusion throughout our schools. Just as a note, I'm really excited about having our students attend in November, WASDA, which is our state conference with school board superintendents and student representatives. And we will have an opportunity to present with our students at our special education parent advisory and unified information. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I want to thank the board for submitting that, because I think it's going to be fantastic. So I'm looking forward to that. October 13th through the 17th was National School Lunch Week. Thank you to Aramark, our new food service providers, and their staff for nourishing our students with care and creating welcoming spaces every day. And who does not like an apple crunch month? I'm sure I heard the crunch that went across Gig Harbor from Voyager. October 20th, so this month through the 24th, marks National School Bus Safety Week. And I think that we have said all the great things about our school bus drivers, our mechanics, and our transportation staff for ensuring that safe travel to and from school, twice to the moon, and around the nation and around the world. Over 1.3 million miles. Is that correct? That's amazing. I mean, that is amazing. That is a lot of potential flat tires and need for mechanics. That is a lot of students coming to and from school every day in a safe manner. So again, thank you. October is also National Bullying Prevention Month, and I know that all of the schools have had a real focus on being civil and really creating kind, respectful, and safe environments. You know, you can go into almost any school and you see that language, being respectful, being kind, and really at this time in our nation, in our world, being civil and kind is it's not even a soft skill, it's a necessary skill. So thank you to all the schools that are highlighting that. And really a special thank you to our board of directors. You continue to support and our commitment to building a strong, inclusive community, but also supporting all of our students. So the act around our levy this evening is testament to that. So thank you for that, because without that, and I'm sure that, you know, now we're just down to 2 students over there, but it is shocking when you hear that the state does not provide things such as athletics or full funding of transportation or even full funding of all of the staff that make our schools the vivacious, wonderful places where people want to send their students. And now we know, my staff knows, because they're all sitting in the back, that we will be going out to the community in every way, shape, or form. There will be lots of opportunities to go out to the schools, to community events, to all of our partners throughout the district to make sure that the levy information is accurate and understood. So thank you for that, and thank you for a great month.
Great, thank you. That takes us to item 11, which is board discussion and comments. Don't all jump. Who would like to go first?
I'll start short and sweet. We had a big presentation tonight. Thank everyone for staying the course. And I just kind of reemphasize what Preston said. We looked at numbers, data, points, spreadsheets, tax levy rates, comparative, and that's all well and fine, but then we look over and we see Caitlin and Kainoa, and that's really what it is, right? And so I love hearing from you guys so much because that's the link between all of this really boring data and what it actually really means, what's going on in the schools every day. And I just feel like this year I'm so happy with how just the feel that school has gotten off on a really good foot. I love hearing that you're breaking numbers at your homecoming, selling homecoming tickets. That's fantastic. I love the spectacular. I love hearing the plays, the theater performances coming up. So let's just all collectively always keep this in mind when we're crunching through these numbers that are making us cross-eyed, that no, that's the work we have to do so that what happens in the buildings every day can continue for our kids. So that's it.
Last week attended the Audit Finance Committee meeting and got a lot more lovely foreign information, but I like that kind of stuff, so especially when it has charts and data and cohorts and stuff like that. And it's also, this week is also the Festival of Lights, Diwali, so just want to point that out.
Yeah. All right. Well, I just wanted to shout out, thank you to the Finance and Audit Committee. I know they've been working a long time on this, and I sat in on one of the meetings, really thoughtful questions. I know that they're keeping in mind our community, but most importantly, our students, like, as you said, Jennifer, that's what it's all about. I'm going to keep this really short. I just want to call out, I think our first ever Purple Star night, family dinner and game night is going to be this Thursday at Gig Harbor High School, 5 to 7. I will be your MC for the night. So I know that Bunky's been putting together a really fantastic program, so I'm looking forward to that. Also, I want to invite everyone to come out and see us on Friday night, the Penn Met's Trick or Trail. I've heard it called two things: Trick or Trail at by the new facility that they have. We have a school board booth, so we wanted to give our staff a night off. And if you have children or grandchildren that trick or treat, come out and find the bookworms who might be out haunting the trail. So that's this Friday. It's going to be a lot of fun. And so moving on to future meetings, I want to just have a quick discussion with the board about our November 4th meeting. We got through some pretty heavy business tonight. We also have our SIP presentations that are going to be going on through the month of November. So Wendy, you are the only one on the agenda really for the November 4th meeting. If you are able to maybe shift to December, I'm going to, what is that?
Gladly.
Gladly? Okay. So can we maybe consider canceling our November 4th meeting, shifting the arts, activities, and athletics report to December, and then giving everyone one night off in November, and then focus on those school improvement plan meetings instead? Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, can you just real quick run through what's
Yeah,
happening
so let
with
me
the
talk about
SIPs?
that. So we've got the school improvement plans. It's going to be part of the Focus on Education Week that we've done in the past year. So we've got 4 nights planned. November 5th is going to be at Peninsula High School. That's going to be Purdy, Swiftwater, Harbor Ridge, Henderson Bay, and Peninsula High School. They're going to be focusing on, there's going to be some hands-on demonstrations and some cutting-edge programs and innovative ways of learning that's going to be featured. But the principals will also be there presenting their school improvement plan data. So that's the 5th of November. The 6th of November, the same thing is going to be happening at Goodman Middle School, and that will be Discovery, Harbor Heights, Goodman, Henderson Bay, and Gig Harbor High School. Then the following week, November 12th, will be at Key Peninsula Middle School, Evergreen, Vaughn, Minter, and KPMS, and Peninsula High School again. Just more opportunities to see. Okay. November 13th will be at Copachuck, and it's going to be Artendale, Pioneer, Voyager, Copachuck, and Gig Harbor. So we will be floating around those. We have quorum notices out. I think most of us will attend all or most.
So to be clear, -1 meeting plus 4. So it's a net increase of 3.
It is a net increase.
Okay, just want to make that clear.
Thank you. Math is good.
You mean first the moon? No.
Yeah.
All right, it was going to be 5, so I'm still going to, And I think our SIP meetings were darn near 4 or 5 hours. So, we're just spreading the pain out. Okay, so let's just go ahead and say we are going to cancel the November 4th meeting and add the other 4. So our next business meeting will be December 9th, 2025 here at Swiftwater. We are not going to be doing a study session in December. It's just such a busy month. So only one meeting in December as well. And then we will go back to that 2 meeting schedule with the study sessions in January. That sound good? Okay, great. Well, then hearing nothing else,